But you guys will enjoy it. Alright, I will be back. Let me switch us over to Space News. I'll play more F1 Manager on the other side of Space News. That was really fun. Switches over to science and technology. What's the noise? Rain. It's rain, fellas. Yeah. Once again, I don't have the drop ceiling nor the insulation in, so yeah, that's what's going on. Yeah, it's just, guys, there's literally about I don't know, 20 millimeter of insulation. It's about 1.5 inches of insulation, and then the metal roof is right there. Like I said, this back room was basically a barn. It's, yeah. It needs to be, I need the drop ceiling in, and that'll get rid of that sound. But anyway. Oh, I've been getting wailed on with rain. We don't have a drought here. We're one of the places in Massachusetts that actually doesn't have a drought. We get too much rain. It's rained like 3 inches over the past week. True story. That's a lot of rain. All right. I will be back momentarily. Enjoy this.
Across the nation are sacred sites that capture the spirit of America's character. And one of those places is right here, the Kennedy Space Center.
Every single vehicle that has carried humans beyond the bounds of low Earth orbit has undergone integration and testing in that vehicle assembly building, crawled down this roadway and launched right here from the Kennedy Space Center. The Space Launch System, mated with the Orion spacecraft, will continue this proud tradition.
As soon as we roll out of the vehicle assembly building, High Bay 3, and the world gets a chance to see this rocket, I think it is going to be shocking.
On March 17th, NASA took a giant step toward returning humanity to the moon. The fully assembled Space Launch System rocket and Orion spacecraft for the Artemis I mission made its debut outside the massive vehicle assembly building.
We've seen the mobile launcher outside, and it's massive, but now add an over 300-foot rocket on top of it, it's just going to be amazing.
Charlie Blackwell Thompson oversees the launch countdown, ultimately providing the go for launch.
Entity, launch director, representing this team and all the men and women that have worked to make this day happen, I proudly give you a go to roll the Artemis launch vehicle to the pad.
Ladies and gentlemen, the world's most powerful rocket right here.
Once outside, the rocket began its nearly 4-mile journey to the pad, riding atop a 6.6 million pound crawler transporter, which was originally constructed to transport the Apollo moon rocket.
In 1 year, we have completely stacked the vehicle. We've completed most of our testing, all very successful, and we are so close to launch, and the excitement is just crazy.
Now NASA's new moon rocket is making the same journey the Saturn V took 50 years ago.
And just as all eyes are on the SLS tonight as it makes its journey, in a few short weeks, all eyes are going to be on the sky as it rocks the space coast and takes its maiden flight around the moon.
It is amazing to see the culmination of all of this work of many years from many industries and many people that have come and go, to have a chance to then now see their work going over to the pad and then launching to go to the moon.
The rocket is rolling to historic Launch Complex 39B. It's launch pad used for both Apollo and shuttle launches, sending hundreds of astronauts to space throughout the decades, and now on tap to send hundreds more as we return to the moon and venture beyond to Mars. But for this mission, there will be no astronauts on board. Before the uncrewed Artemis I stack can launch to our nearest celestial body, it has to travel to the pad for a wet dress rehearsal, a test to run the rocket, capsule, launch team, and launch pad through their paces, simulating a launch countdown.
When we get to the pad team will be connecting all the interfaces between the pad and the mobile launcher so that we can go ahead and start our operations at the pad. So at that point, the launch director really takes over, and she will go down the sequence as if it was really a normal launch day.
Wet dress rehearsal is essentially launch without a launch. It is to, really the reason we're doing it is to verify and validate all of the pieces that go into launch countdown. So wet dress is really our opportunity to find any issues or adjustments that we need to make in our launch countdown.
For Artemis I, the wet dress rehearsal is the final and most critical test before the rocket can return to the launch pad for liftoff to the moon. During the countdown, over 730,000 gallons of supercooled liquid propellants will be loaded into the rocket as part of the nearly 2-day launch countdown.
We will configure all of the ground systems exactly the way we would for launch, and we will fully load the core stage and the interim cryopropulsion stage with their liquid fuels. That'll be the first time that that's been done from here at Kennedy Space Center. There have been pieces of these things done in multiple different areas. We've tested all of these systems in multiple different locations, but this will be the first time where we pull it all together and do all of it all in the same progression that we've got laid out for launch countdown.
Wet dress is the biggest milestone we have aside from launch, because that means that the rocket is now put together, has been tested separately and together, and it is ready to go and be filled with fuel to simulate how we're going to do it at the pad, and then it tells us the rocket is ready to go for launch.
And behind that wet dress rehearsal is a launch team made up of hundreds of engineers monitoring each system of the 320-foot-tall Artemis I rocket and capsule. Sitting in firing room 1 is the core launch control team, monitoring hundreds of launch commit criteria to ensure the ground systems and flight hardware are ready for launch.
Now you would think that launch control team in Firing Room 1 is it, that's all you need. We have an expansive support team across really the entire NASA enterprise that is supporting us on launch day.
And that support spans the entire nation, from additional systems engineers sitting in Kennedy's Firing Room 2, to the flight control team at Johnson Space Center in Houston, to the contractors responsible for designing and building each segment of the rocket and capsule.
This team is really shaping up to be a great, very skilled and ready to operate and execute launch for Artemis I.
With the Artemis I launch team now fully certified and the wet dress rehearsal complete, SLS and Orion are ready for their final pit stop, returning to the VAB before venturing back to Launch Pad 39B for liftoff.
I mean, we are going and we're going together, and we're having an opportunity to do this in a new generation of space exploration in which I can say that I'm honorably a part of.
You know, you come every day to the VAB and you see the rocket and you can't believe what we have accomplished.
People throughout history have always explored, and you never know what you're going to learn.
Exploration is not always about the destination, but it's the path that you travel, the things you learn along the way.
And the things we're going to learn are going to be incredible. We can't even begin to understand what those are today.
Our workforce has been a relentless spirit. We imagine, we build, we never stop pushing the envelope of what is possible.
Man, that was good timing. How was the video? Was it good? Yeah? Good? Alright. So, what I'm gonna do... How's the leak situation? It's not bad. Yeah, it's okay. 144p, don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. I'll watch that again during Space News. Let me get another video teed up here. Here. I got one more.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Here we go. Teed up one more. I'm just going to do it once over on the garage again. I'll be right back. Also, I had to boost the audio because NASA doesn't know how to mix it correctly. So when we go to play the next video, it drowns it out. Yep. Sorry about that.
Time when a meteor flashing through the sky struck man with a deep sense of wonder. Even today, man's reaction to a meteoric display is likely to jam the switchboards with reports of imminent invasion from space. But as heirs to the knowledge, disciplines, and apparatus of the scientific revolution, we are familiar with, and at least partially understand, the meteoric phenomena. A meteoroid, traveling in space outside our atmosphere, remains unseen by man, for the molecules in space are so dispersed that collision with them causes no visible effect. If its trajectory traverses the Earth's atmosphere, it becomes a meteor. Here it begins to collide with more molecules. These collisions become more and more frequent as the meteor descends into the denser air of lower altitudes, causing it to decelerate. Each collision converts some of the energy of motion into heat energy, and the heat continues to increase until the meteor itself becomes incandescent, scribing its visible path through the night sky. Destroyed in the atmosphere by this heating, most meteors present no danger to man. Now and then, one is large enough to survive its passage through the atmosphere to Earth. It is then called a meteorite, and some are very large indeed. Dr. Peter Parameter became interested in meteors early in his career, and once wrote a paper titled,
"A thermokinetic description of bodies in passage through a plastic medium of nonlinear density at random velocities and angles, which could be just about summed up with this equation."
With this equation, his fellow scientists and designers are able to explain the effects of atmospheric penetration on differing bodies, those with different ballistic coefficients, at various velocities and angles. For example, if two bodies of different weights enter the Earth's atmosphere with the same velocity and entry angle, both the heavy body and the light one will begin to heat up at the same time. But impacts of air molecules slow the light body sooner. This deceleration of the light body occurs at higher altitudes, while the heavier, more energetic body penetrates deeper before it reaches peak deceleration. The total amount of heat generated by the lighter one is less than that generated by the heavy one, whose larger mass gives it greater kinetic energy. Two identical bodies with the same velocity entering the atmosphere at different angles also will decelerate at different rates. The steeper angle causes a more rapid encounter with the dense air, resulting in more abrupt deceleration. The total heat generated will be the same for both bodies, but peak heating will be less for the shallow entry. With identical meteors entering at the same angle but with different velocities, the faster meteor, under heavier bombardment by air molecules, will have greater deceleration, generating more heat and at a higher rate. But Dr. Parameter is no longer merely an observer interested in understanding the phenomena of meteors. A meteor is just an aimless traveler in space. Doc finds himself now involved in designs with a purpose and an aim. A missile has a target, and a spacecraft has a destination, a journey's end. To these, Doc applies his knowledge. He knows natural phenomena, both of aimless meteor and aimed missile. He knows that as they traverse the atmosphere, they heat up. If the heating or deceleration of a vehicle is excessive, the mission is threatened. Man cannot change the laws of nature, so he must use his knowledge to work within those laws. Doc Parameter knows that the two natural enemies to successful atmospheric penetration are deceleration and heat. He can fight these enemies on two possible fronts. First, on the design front, by modifying the vehicle's shape and size relative to its weight. In other words, its ballistic coefficient. And second, on the program front, by altering the vehicle's trajectory, its velocity, its attitude, and its angle of entry into the Earth's atmosphere. Dr. Parameter is now ready to use his technology to plan a successful re-entry for an ICBM warhead. He knows that of the two natural enemies, deceleration and heat, high deceleration is not a problem with a warhead, but too much heat could destroy it. He first surveys the project on the program front. He knows that the re-entry velocities and angles are essentially set by the mission. But to reduce heat load, the velocity of the re-entry vehicle could theoretically be reduced by firing a retro rocket. On investigation, he finds that in order to decrease re-entry velocities sufficiently by this method, a retro thrust system would be required weighing many times the weight of the warhead. This method is out. He next considers the possibility of changing the re-entry angle. He knows that a shallow angle will lessen the peak heat load by stretching the heating over a longer period of time. But the total heat generated will be the same either way, and the vehicle could absorb even more heat during this longer re-entry. Furthermore, a shallow re-entry angle has other serious drawbacks. First, a shallow angle impairs accuracy by deflection in the atmosphere. Second, it affords more time for enemy interception. A steep re-entry improves the missile's chances of avoiding interception and of reaching its target with minimum atmospheric deflection. In this case, altering the program is not the answer to the heat problem. Dr. Parameter must attack the problem of heat on the design front. Logic would seem to indicate that fast travel requires a streamlined shape to slice its way through the air. At subsonic velocities, this is true, but at supersonic speeds, the moving vehicle displaces air molecules which bounce off, forming a shock wave. As speed increases, the shock wave becomes more severe, and heating increases. An ICBM will have a free-fall re-entry speed in excess of 23,000 feet per second. At this speed, the heat of molecular collision and friction, shearing of air molecules, is concentrated in a narrow zone along the surface of a streamlined vehicle. The heat generated may cause the temperature to exceed 15,000 degrees Fahrenheit. To combat this terrific heat, Dr. Parameter designs instead a re-entry vehicle with a blunt frontal area. The blunt shape creates its shock wave somewhat ahead of the vehicle. This occurs because the atmospheric molecules colliding with its frontal surface bounce back and intercept others coming in, setting up a kind of picket line in advance of the warhead. The peak heat is generated in this area away from the surface of the vehicle. Although the blunt shape decreases the peak heating of the warhead to half that of the streamlined shape, it will still heat up to 7,000 degrees Fahrenheit, much too hot for unprotected warhead structures. To further reduce heating, Dr. Parameter must find other techniques in addition to the blunt shape. His first solution is the heat sink. Use the blunt design and add a mass of heat-conducting metal large enough to absorb most of the heat generated during re-entry without melting before impact. It works, but he is not yet satisfied. The weight of the heat sink displaces more than 1/4 of the payload. Furthermore, the blunt design slows the missile, keeping it in the atmosphere a longer time, making it less accurate and easier to intercept. For the greatest accuracy and shortest time in the atmosphere, Doc knows that the streamlined shape is the best. But the heat sink cannot absorb and distribute the sudden extreme heat generated during the re-entry of a streamlined vehicle. Doc reasons,
If the heat cannot be absorbed, why not eject it as fast as it's generated?
the answer is ablation.
Ablation! Coat the frontal surface of the streamlined missile with layers of ablative material composed of fibers, resins, and ceramics.
This ablative coating protects the missile from the extreme heat in several ways. It is a poor heat conductor. Its surface gradually melts away, taking heat with it, and its vapor forms a thin insulating layer, deflecting some of the heat from the surface. The ablative principle combats the heat problem effectively and permits steeper re-entry angles while adding a minimum of weight. The streamlined missile, with its increased speed, affords the least possibility of interception and the greatest accuracy. It does produce a huge deceleration factor approaching 150 Gs. Fortunately, this poses no threat to a warhead. But for manned or other recovery missions, the G-load is a most important factor. For manned re-entry, this force should be held below 10 Gs. A shallow re-entry angle of about 1 to 5 degrees is the simple answer. The shallower the angle, the less the G-load. But this will be sustained over a longer period of time. This means a longer time at high speed through the friction of the atmosphere. Let's take a moment to see why this is not desirable. Dr. Parameter?
Thank you. Gentlemen, we have here a kettle of water. Heathcliff, we can use you in this experiment.
Oh boy, an experiment.
Thank you, sir. Now, if we may have another kettle of water and your stand-in. Thank you. Now we'll proceed with the experiment.
Experiment?
We'll add the same amount of fuel under each kettle, but alter the form of the fuel under one kettle to make it burn faster. We ignite both at the same time and compare the results. Splendid. I'd like to point out that the fast-burning fuel, although reaching its intensity quickly, exhausted itself quickly. The heat absorbed was negligible. The slow-burning fuel, on the other hand, gradually increases in intensity. It will generate the same total heat load, but over a longer period of time, and you'll notice more heat is absorbed. Thank you, Heathcliff.
Thank you, Dr. Parameter. So although the peak heat generated in the shallow re-entry is less, the capsule is in the heating regime for a longer time, and without the utmost protection would absorb an intolerable amount of heat. For manned re-entry, Dr. Parameter overcomes the deceleration enemy through program with the shallow angle, but he must combat heat on the design front. A blunt shape to cause a detached shockwave, a picket line against heat, and ablative materials for additional heat control. The Doc is confident his new design will fulfill the requirements. Now to try it out. He wants low peak deceleration, so the shallow re-entry path is mandatory. This brings him down safely, if a little off target. To achieve some control and accuracy as well as safety, Dr. Parameter has been working on other design concepts, particularly shapes that produce lift. He knows that a ballistic missile is designed and programmed to hit a particular point on the Earth's surface. A manned ballistic vehicle with the same objective is much less accurate due to its design and long, shallow penetration. But a lifting vehicle, which is capable of descending at a still more shallow angle and with an extremely low deceleration rate, is able to change direction. This control gives it wide selectivity of landing sites within a large footprint area. For the shortest range within the footprint, the vehicle is pulled up into a maximum lift attitude at re-entry. This induces maximum drag, causing a steeper, more abrupt descent. For the longest possible range, the vehicle must assume the attitude of maximum lift-over-drag ratio. This footprint, huge at first, shrinks gradually as the vehicle descends. Dr. Parameter, while considering the advantages of lifting vehicles, is also aware of their drawbacks. First, the lifting structure itself imposes weight penalties, which compete with the all-important matter of payload. Then, lifting vehicles may also spend up to 20 minutes in the heat regime, and being more streamlined, they require a still more complex heat protection system, competing still further with payload. Dr. Parameter, with his associates, has studied the strategy of atmospheric penetration. He knows its natural enemies, deceleration and heat, and has met them on the two fronts of program and design. He has accomplished important objectives. For the intercontinental ballistic missile, the objectives are rapid atmospheric penetration and accuracy. The warhead's natural enemy is sudden, intense heat. Its program? High velocity, steep re-entry. Its design, streamlined with ablation to combat sudden heat. For a manned or other recovery mission, the objectives are, first of all, safety, and then control. The mission's natural enemies, high deceleration, sustained heat. Its program, shallow re-entry for low deceleration. The vehicle's design, blunt, yet with control capabilities, a maneuverable lifting shape. The resulting long duration within the heat regime exacts a weight penalty because a complex heat protection system is needed. There will always be problems to solve. Dr. Parameter has worked out successful compromises so far, but he is still puzzling, still exploring. He plots his graphs, his curves, and flings them boldly into space. But he knows that we have barely gotten our little toe into space, and he constantly seeks to improve that toehold. He must hold to the possible, yet he constantly works along its impossible edges. He has opened the way for man's safe re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere. Journey's end for space travel.
Okay, it's toned down a little bit. Dude, that was bad for a second. Here, let me look at the radar. Yeah, it should be dying down soon. I'm like right on the... Not too bad. Do space news via notepad. These updates, regular stuff. Alright, the rain's dying down, so that's fine. That's a lot of those. There we go. Yeah, Tan, the radar is a little bit off. It says it's clear. I'm looking at the radar right now. It says it's clear where I am right now, which yeah, about that.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Yeah, the radar shows nothing. It should, like, not even close to where I am right now. Oh, Oh. Oh, that's a big storm. But, yeah, and, like, huh. Okay. It shows clear where I am right now, which is not right. That's weird. Okay. Can you please get your guitar out? It's in the house, man. It's in the house, and I don't have the mixer hooked up. A little imagination. Thunder is just rocket launching. Yeah. Yeah. Rain's actually fake. It's just Brimo standing out there. Yeah. Yeah. Jeez. Yeah, the radar... dude, I must be like right on the edge of this thing, but I guess it ain't going away either. I mean, the radar, just a storm pops up, and I'll tell you, my parents' house is going to get wailed on here in a second. But yeah, I'm like... On the radar, it says I'm like due south of where this storm is, which is strange, but whatever. I mean, the weathermen get that crap wrong all the time. Yeah. Doesn't OBS have a noise filter? Yeah. Yeah, if I was asking for solutions to the sound problem, I would ask, hey, how can I fix this? It's a nice noise, though. Alright, let's take a look here. Let me start transferring these links over for space news. The first, like, true space news here. Let me start transferring this stuff over here. Okay, I get it. Water falls from the sky. Can you stop? Jeez. Did it just get worse after I said, can you stop? It got worse. It got worse. What the hell's that about? Let me almost finish transferring these links up. We already watched the Artemis one. There we go. And all right. It's not hail, dudes. No, it's not hail. It's just a metal roof, and it's an uncovered metal roof because the back of this garage is built more like a barn. I'm just worried. I'm worried about leaks. There is one up there. I see it. I was watching it. It is leaking just a teeny weeny bit, but yeah, it has to rain really hard to get it to leak. I gotta go up there and seal the roof up better. The guy that made this used siding for the roof so the joints aren't in the right spots. And yeah, water. Yeah, I'm thinking maybe replace it with actual like steel roofing, but I'm tracking only one leak right now. But I mean, that's a building on a budget. The other thing is that the guy that built this wasn't expecting like this to be. We can't hear you? Oh, yeah. Yeah, you definitely can't, can you? I can hear you, I can hear you. No, you're coming through. I think we should just chill and listen to it for a second. Long. Yeah. Yeah, the hand-painted fairing. Oh, okay, I got it. Still managing Formula One? Yeah, we'll get back to that on the other side of Space News, dudes. Don't answer the phone. How close was that? When thunder cracks, that strike was close. You're in a Faraday cage. No. We really need that drop ceiling in, man. Are we grounded? Yes. Are we playing Minecraft? No. See that rumble? That's farther away. When you hear cracks. Yeah, I don't think they got the weather report right. It's kind of nice. It's kind of nice. I don't think so, Tony. You got a lightning rod? The garage is in the woods yard. Surrounded by trees, dude. Like, on 3 sides. Yeah, like surrounded by trees that are way taller, so I'm not too incredibly worried. I don't have any windows in here, to be honest. Yeah, surrounded by really tall trees. The trees are probably like 100 feet tall. Pine trees. Just be not concerned with the shyness, for it will pass. Let's see what the National Weather Service is saying. Hold on. That is a gnarly thunderstorm. If it rains for 39 more days, build a boat? Okay, but read Tori Bruno's quote. Yeah, yeah, Zay, I got you. I saw it. Yeah, it's not the painting that you're trying to... Yeah, if you look at National Weather Service Boston, they said a special weather statement has been issued for Providence, Fall River, and Warwick, excuse me. And yeah, that's in the line with where it's going towards me. So yeah, that's good. Yeah, the radar that we were looking at wasn't right. I've been looking at all the weather in Florida. It looks like bad storms for the next 2 weeks. Yeah. At least it's getting cooler outside. Yeah. What time is it now? 6 o'clock? Yeah, it's gonna get a little rainy. It might stay like this for a little while, guys. Yeah. The storms get over the Cape and they just get bigger. Okay. That's a lot of water. Jeez, man. That's a lot of water. There is one, Zaz, but it's not bad. It's a slight leak. Man, that's loud. Have you considered building an ark? Are your computers gonna get wet? No. I really need that drop ceiling in, dudes. Yes, Fistus will be insulating above it. Yeah, you won't hear this. That's a lot of water. Notice they didn't install a pad deluge over my house, did they? First fix the leaks, then the drop ceiling. Oh, why would I do that, Cientic? That makes too much sense. I guess we're in a holding pattern here. You feel more connected with nature? Kathy, you liked it? You like the nature? SpaceX is testing their deluge system. Yeah, Darius, I believe that. I need to get the ceiling put in sooner rather than later. And you know what the crazy thing is? During the 3 weeks that I was moving, it didn't rain once. And since I moved, like right when we got settled, like this week, it's rained almost every day. I hope you're not getting any water in the basement. No, it's good, man. There's a sump in the basement anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. I really wish that would, go away. I'm gonna check the back of the room real quick. BRB, 1 second. Nope, no water coming in back here. It sounds like it though. Jeez. Oh look, it's just gonna be loud again. That's good. I think you better call Saul. What's that gonna do? What am I gonna do? Sue the weather? I'm going to look outside. I'll be right back. Got an idea. Here's what I'm gonna do. Here's the idea. I'm gonna go outside and stand there for 5 seconds and come back in, and you guys will see how rainy it is. Alright. I'll be right back. Wish me luck. Yeah. Guys, I can confirm there is in fact water falling from the sky. Yep. And it is in fact wet. Yep. Yeah, wet. So RTX voice, Jesse, you keep doing that thing. You keep offering help when I'm not asking for it. It's funny how you don't listen. Yeah, it's a little wet. Yeah, the cap is a little bit discolored. It's usually not that dark. Yep. Keep doing that thing. When I get the drop ceiling in, fellas, it's not going to be a big deal. I'm not asking for help with the rain noise. I don't need it. Looks like there's a pre-launch conference for Artemis 1 tomorrow at 2:30. Can't make it. Got a wedding shower to go to. That's Novus. That's part of the reason why I'm not down. Why I'm not down there. Yeah. It's really annoying. Some bonehead in my family decided to schedule a wedding. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not on the day that SLS launches, but if SLS scrubs, then I'm pretty screwed. Seems like that tunnel between the house and the garage is looking more and more promising. All right, donate enough, tip the stream enough so I can get a excavator, and then I'll do it. Please don't do that. Some boneheads. So you then. Try again. Ando, my wedding's too far out to know. Anyway, alright. Do it the Colin Furs way? Yeah, no, hard pass. I'll do it, I'll do that the same way that he, I'll do that the same way that he made the original part of the bunker. Yeah. I.e. just dig a big hole in the ground. Yeah. Alright. Should be dying down now. Yeah, maybe Hellfish. Do you need an umbrella? No, I'm good. See, if we're gonna do what Colin Furs did, fellas, not that I would. I'd have to file permits and we'd have to call DigSafe and stuff. If we were gonna do that, what I would do is build a tunnel boring machine. I'd make one. I don't know what we'd make it out of. Maybe a snowblower or something. That's what I would want to do. Yeah, if we're going to do that. Yeah, we'll go MacGyver on this thing. Alright. That's just extra steps and content. Everything is content. Yeah. Alright. I'm not saying nothing. Let's just start space news, alright? How about we start with another video about Artemis 1? So, fellas, this is the last space news, because I'm not streaming tomorrow. I have a wedding shower to go to. I'm going to be live pretty much Sunday night. Well, I'd say more Monday morning. Did you watch the heavy D tour of the off-grid house compound a few weeks ago? No, I didn't. Install a Hyperloop from the house to the garage. Okay. Colin Furs didn't ask until after he started. Yeah. It might pick up again in 20, 30 minutes. But anyway, let's start with another one. So, guys, the big news, first and foremost, this is what I'm going to lead space news with, is that SLS is go for launch on Monday, 8:33. Liftoff is targeted. Let me rewind. Artemis 1 is targeting 8:33 a.m. Eastern Time for a launch. Artemis 1 is an SLS class rocket, so it's the NASA Space Launch System, and it's going to throw an Orion capsule out to the moon. NASA could be going back to the moon on Monday. That close. We're just a couple of days away. So, I'm not going to stream tomorrow. And I'll probably take Sunday just to drop ceiling. That's what I'm probably going to end up doing. on Sunday. Is there a window or instant? It is a 2-hour window, Yarg. SLS does have RAN steering like Atlas does, so that's pretty good. How long will we be waiting for SLS after this one? About a year and a half, Alleviate, and that's not because they don't have another SLS ready, dudes. They need to basically analyze all the data and telemetry that's going to come from this mission. That's the part that's going to take a while. Yeah. Also, there are components from the Orion capsule that are going to be reused. They're going to take parts off of this Orion capsule and use it on the crew-rated Orion capsule, which is the Artemis II mission. The Artemis II mission should be in 2024. Now, keep in mind, you hear 2024 and you're like, oh man, that's 2 years away. Not really. It's closer than you might think. Think about it. It's August 2022 right now. This year has gone by very, very quickly, but that's the way it is, right? So if you think about, 6 months to crunch the data from the Artemis I mission, about 6 months, right? And then, refurbishing components and finishing the Artemis II stack, which most of it is already manufactured, but using what you learned from Artemis I to make modifications to the Artemis II mission, which will be the first crewed mission, right? Yeah, that, if that takes about 6 months to analyze all the data, I'd say, and then about a year to apply what you learned, that actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's pretty much right. Maybe, guys, 2024 could be early 2024. I actually think that is about, give or take, about correct. Yeah. I remember complaining about 2020. Yeah, right. Artemis II is on the books for May of 2024. Yeah, dude, that's not that far away. That's not that far away, dudes. So yeah, guys, it's starting to ramp up. I mean, and this. Here, let's watch the video first, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, watch this one. This is a good video. Let me get rid of that. Let me get me back up here. Take a look.
System is really the backbone of the Artemis missions. It's the
NASA
truck.
once
It's
again
the big carry
can't mix
vehicle.
audio correctly, so I gotta.
It allows us to carry both
Hey, Dak.
crew as well as the equipment that we need to live and work on the moon.
60 years ago, NASA was in a race to get to the moon. This time is more than just a race. It's about establishing a long-term presence.
Can you imagine rolling the Statue of Liberty out to put at the pad? That's what we're doing.
It will lift up from Earth with more power than the Saturn V, which was the first vehicle to take us to the moon.
Artemis is our next giant leap.
The difference between the Apollo program and the Artemis program is really the focus on sustainability and using the moon as an outpost for further exploration.
This time, we're going back to learn how to live and work on the moon.
The Space Launch System really is the culmination of our knowledge for 60 years of building rockets.
We started by looking at over 1,700 different potential components that would go into the rocket, and by looking at the way we could reuse some of the most reliable equipment that was flown on the shuttle.
We took those and we put them together into a system that had enough energy to make sense to do the mission that we've been asked to do.
We're moving from low Earth orbit, like you see in the International Space Station today, to moving beyond that, to taking the next step in exploration.
It's 322 feet tall.
That's cool.
It's got 700,000 gallons of cryogenic propellant in the core stage alone. It can produce 8.8 million pounds of vacuum thrust. The Space Launch System is really a national rocket, a national asset too.
We have worked with contractors as well as with our NASA experts, our science and engineering department, our safety and mission assurance team.
To get the Space Launch System designed, developed, and produced, it has taken thousands of companies across the country.
It comes together by train, it comes together by plane, it comes together by barges.
So all of that culminates at the Kennedy Space Center for the launch of the first Artemis mission.
Everybody has worked together to ensure that we have a safe and reliable rocket.
At NASA, safety and testing is extremely important because ultimately this rocket isn't meant just to carry cargo, it's meant to carry people.
It takes all types of education, all types of backgrounds, all types of diversity to do the things we do, and it'll be great to see a diverse crew land on the moon.
Where the Space Launch System comes in is providing that reliable transportation so that we can start flying these rockets on a routine basis to take people and to take
that's going to be really cool.
To that outpost, the moon, and also the gateway system.
We have a generation who've never seen deep space exploration, and this will give them an opportunity to see that this is something that they can potentially do themselves.
It's going to be a paradigm shift for NASA. We're going to be back to looking at things that nobody's ever done before.
Well, that was pretty cool. So, yeah. We're not that far out for the next one after that. And this feeds into something else. Like, here, check this out. There was a, give me 1 second. I gotta go through.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Check this out. So there was a conference update this morning. So this is Universe Consuming Mike. Mike's he runs the NASA SLS account. Here, check this out. Look, here's a little kind of summary of the conference update. So this feeds into something. Hey, it's Mick, Gifted 7 Merkers. Thank you. Yeah, Duckman, I understand the sentiment. I mean, they might be the most skilled person for that criteria. Think about it. Like, at the end of the day, dude, I don't really care. They can send a freaking monkey up there. I don't really care. Let's just go. Let's send an antworm or an anthill back to the antworm. Let's send an anthill to the moon. Screw it. Let's do something. Like, do something. Like, I don't really care anymore. You know, like, I don't want to call it impatience, but it's been 50 years, and I haven't been alive for most of those 50 years. You know what I'm saying? They could send a potato. Now we're talking. Now we're talking. That's a good idea. But, see, like, here's the thing. It's kind of like, Dougman, it's like a double-edged sword, dude, because, look, NASA knows at the end of the day you have to be... You really have to know what they're doing. They're not just going to put somebody on that spacecraft or somebody on a spaceship, or they're not just going to send somebody into space if they didn't think they were the best, like, qualified to be able to do it. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of how the person looks or anything like that. Like, that's the dirty little secret. NASA says, oh, we're going to send this person and this person to the moon, right? Like, oh, you think, oh, that's a big deal. But the reality of that situation is that, you know, their standards for astronaut training doesn't change no matter who they recruit. It doesn't change. Everybody is susceptible to the same criteria because here's the thing. You can't lower standards. There's this thing, you know, that people say, like, space is a little bit on the difficult side. Yeah, you really can't lower the standards. So that just shows that people, no matter what the criteria is, people are up to the standards, which is good. That's a good thing. It's a good thing. I do kind of, at times, I'm like, okay, we get it. But also at the same time, look, they ain't going to put somebody in that spacecraft that wasn't qualified to fly it. You know what I mean? They're not just going to put somebody there because of how they look. Because you can't. You can't. Think about it, dude. Think about if they put somebody up there just because of how they look, right? And they aren't qualified to fly it, and then the thing fails. That could be catastrophically bad. You can't. You can't be, oh, we're sending a woman to the moon. We're sending a man to the moon. You can't do that. They have to be qualified personnel. If they're not qualified personnel, get out. Like, that's the thing. Like, that's why I've never had a problem with NASA recruiting just, like, any American that qualifies for it, dude. You know, like, I don't care. Like, does it make them less qualified because they're a lady? No, that has nothing to do with it. But at the end of the day, you have to gatekeep being an astronaut, right? Like, you can't screw around with that. Somebody will get hurt if you recruit somebody that's not the most qualified for the job, you know? So, like, I trust them. Like, whoever they put up on a spacecraft, whoever they choose to go back to the moon, is going to be the most qualified person. Could you see the feds pushing for more funding once SLS is successful? That's what I kind of wanted to get into. Well, they made a mistake in their last conference, a big mistake. This is a big mistake. Even Wayne Hale is agreeing. Okay. I want a summary of the meeting before we get into that. So let's go over here. Let's go over here. Let's go like this. Let's go like that. All right. So what's Mike saying? So conference updates from this morning. There's a conference about Artemis and SLS. Let's see what we got. Booster obsolescence and life expectancy test booster in 2024. In 2024. Orion 2 to be finished by 2024. Orion 5 production. Artemis 5 Orion is in production right now. Artemis 1 seat will be reused for Artemis 2. Oh, that's good. You're using the seat. And man, here they didn't change the requirements at all, man. The requirements to be an astronaut are still the exact same things that they were in the 60s. Because you're going to get somebody killed. Like, if you try to lower the requirements in any way, shape, or form to accommodate a more diverse astronaut corps, someone will die. The standards haven't changed. That just shows that, you know, the group of astronauts can come from, the group of astronauts in the astronaut corps right now come from anywhere. They come from anywhere because anybody's qualified enough to be an astronaut. Anybody's able to achieve that level of smart, I guess. You know what I mean? Dude, I don't really care. They could send a bunch of bananas up there. I really don't give a frick. I'm more fascinated with the rocket, to be 100% honest with you. I don't care who's on it. As long as they come back in one piece, I don't really care. Yeah, exactly, Jim. I haven't seen any news about the launch anywhere today. Was it successful? Last I heard, some bad weather moved through. I wasn't aware. What are you talking about, Quills? Launch? No, there's no launch today. Launch for SLS is on Monday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. The last time they changed the medical qualifications before Gemini started. Bingo, Toa. Bingo. Now, guys, I'm not going to sit here and say that it would probably be better scientifically to test with just guys first or just women first and just guys later, like just so you get a good data set. And what a lot of people don't know, well, you know, as long as we're going to be on the subject, a lot of people don't know is that was NASA's idea at the time, test with all guys, right? There were female astronauts that were qualified, more than qualified enough to fly a Gemini spacecraft or an Apollo spacecraft, but NASA wanted to fly with all men first off. Now, I don't know, you might not agree that, whatever, it's that, like, could it be an institutional thing? I have no idea, but from a scientific standpoint, it would be better to test with one group first and then test with another group, right? And then test with both at the same time. That's the scientific way to do it. And if the Apollo program had kept going, women would have been recruited for the Apollo program. That's what they wanted to do. It's just they canned the Apollo program, and because they canned the Apollo program and replaced it with the space shuttle, unfortunately, the women astronauts at the time had to wait until the freaking 80s. If they didn't cancel the Apollo program, they're going to put women on it. Abso-freaking-lutely. Like, some of the astronaut classes that were recruited once the space shuttle started flying were some of the first women to get into NASA. Like Catherine Sullivan, off the top of my head, Sally Ride. Really big deal. There's a SpaceX launch Saturday evening that has a weather risk. Oh, okay. Controlled experiment. Change one variable at a time. Bingo. Yeah, I mean, that's... I understand that makes sense. That makes sense to me. I don't know, man. Like, once again, it goes back to what I was saying. I don't really care. I don't really care. You can send all women, you can send all men. Send gorillas. I don't really care. You could send giraffes. Send something, please, for the love of God. It's been 84 years. Send something, jeez. Come on. The Mercury 13 didn't get a... Yeah, exactly. They didn't get a chance. And that's a shame, Thomas. That's a shame. Like, I understand wanting to test with one data set first and then go to the other one. That makes sense, but... I don't know, man. Like, that's... You know, like, another, like, if you want another way to look at it scientifically, you send both. You know, you send a man and a woman on the same mission, they're exposed to this exact same stuff, right? Like, you could do it really either way. But, yeah. Either way, I'm happy that the astronaut corps is the way it is. But at the end of the day, guys, the standards haven't changed. Standards haven't changed. This isn't, you know, oh, let's put somebody there just because they have long hair. No. The standards haven't changed since the Apollo program, because you can't. Someone will get hurt if you don't have the most qualified personnel there. Straight up. I need to send some elephants and donkeys? Yeah, sure, whatever. Dude, they can do that if you want. You want to send a bunch of donkeys up there? Whatever. That's fine. Go. Do it. Send camels. Let's go. I don't care. Send frogs. Dude, send something. Please. It's been 84 years. No, the last time any mission, any NASA spacecraft has been out of low Earth orbit was 1972. Literally 50 years ago. Come on, let's go. Send whales. Free Wilsiacs. Anyway. NASA conference updates. So, BOLE, so that's booster obsolescence and life expectancy. So we should start seeing carbon composite boosters in 2024, which is a lot faster than, you know, you'd think. Orion, here's the big one. Orion costs to be cut by 50% from reuse and bulk Orion costs to be cut by 50% from reuse and block buys. Taste that? Taste that, fellas? That's the sweet sound of right. Right. Told you, man. They're gonna block buy it. You bring the cost down. And that's just not like some cutting edge thing, right? You can bring the cost down if you buy more. Buying in bulk works. They did block buy Orion. Yep. But the Alabama Mafia. Yeah, exactly, right? The European Space Agency reported that the Artemis II ESM is mated to the Artemis II capsule. Slip up that Lockheed Martin didn't mention? Jeez. And then the Artemis IV exploration upper stage will do a hot fire prior to flight. They're going to green run the EUS, and they're going to use the B-2 test stand for it. Sweet. Your factories are an investment. Use them. That's why people go to Costco. Bingo. Exactly, Bree. Alright, so what's this thing? Alright, let's see. At this morning's Lunar... This is Jeff Faust's coverage of it. That was Mike's coverage of it. Let's see what Jeff's saying. At this morning's Lunar Exploration Analysis Group meeting, Jim Free says to expect an announcement soon on the agency's plans for procuring a lunar terrain vehicle, unpressurized rover for later Artemis missions. Joel Kieran says to expect an update at next month's International Astronautical Congress, the IAC, to draft Moon to Mars exploration goals and objectives released this spring. Ah, yes, it's all coming together. A refresher on those draft objectives from May, when NASA solicited public input and after which held 2 invite-only workshops. Lisa Watson-Morgan, NASA HLS manager, says the agency is working with SpaceX to fly scientific payloads on the Starship uncrewed lunar landing demo flight. Nice. Also want to take up and down as much as we can on Artemis III, given Starship's large capacity. Yeah, how are you going to cram that all back into Orion? And Senate. Yeah, oh no, like, I get it, jokes about U.S. Congress aside, fellas, but look, I want to dump on Congress just as much as the next person, but honestly, guys, Congress wanted Constellation. Congress wants the gravy train. They want the gravy train. If they can expand the space program, you know, and have, you know, if you have accountability with the space program, right, so like give it goals and deadlines, the system works for you. Instead, we decided to work against it, and Congress freaked out and then started mandating design requirements for the rocket to basically make sure that NASA would still have a in-house space program. In the case of Congress, dude, you want a bigger space program, block buys, more rockets, more deadlines. That's how you get the system to work for you. That's what James Webb knew how to do. They kind of screwed that up when they canceled Constellation. That's a really important thing to understand. And don't get me wrong, I want to dump on Congress as much as the next guy. Like, really do. Like, really, can you guys like do something for a change or something? But in the case of spaceflight, dude, that's not a bad thing. Like, they actually do work, you know? Congress wants block buys. They want more rockets because they know that's more money for their district. If you need a factory that's going to manufacture 3 or 4 SLSs every year, I wish. But just case example, right? That's better. That is better for you. That is more tax dollars into your district, right? You remember, Congress is very pro big space program, which is hilarious to me because, like, in every other thing, it's like, no. Nah, yeah, I see what you're doing there. Don't do that, you know? Anyway, let's see what else they got here. Watson Morgan later described the Starship flying the uncrewed lunar landing demo as a skeleton that will be required to land but not take off. Not necessarily the same Starship that will be used for the Artemis III landing. Yeah, I'm confused. That doesn't make sense. Well, I don't understand what doesn't make sense about that. That's very consistent with SpaceX's bare bones testing. In my opinion, NASA omit those requirements to save costs and to meet the 2024 goal. I was hoping SpaceX was going to do a full-up test on their own, since the skeleton test is more SpaceX time. Yeah. Starship not testing ascent from the moon is dumb. This is going to require some investigation. That's what he's saying. Let's take a look. Let's take a look-see-tooksy. Let's see what we got here. Skeleton Starship lander demo not required to lift off from the moon. This is going to require some investigation. Seriously, how is Almanac? Yeah, Almanac is a savage individual. Seriously, how? And I mean that in an endearing way. How is this the plan? How is this a leap forward? Easier or cheaper? It's ridiculous. I already have it, Creeper. Yeah, I don't know. You guys keep in mind that this is worded... I don't know about the skeleton lander. That doesn't make sense too much. Like... I don't know. That doesn't make the most amount of sense, I suppose, but keep in mind, just because it's not a NASA requirement to take off from the moon with the uncrewed lander doesn't mean that SpaceX ain't gonna do it, right? Right? That doesn't mean that. That doesn't mean they ain't gonna do that. Yeah, no crew-related systems at all will be tested. I mean, with the rapid iteration of Starship, Thomas, they don't. Couldn't they just send a Starship up with an HLS life support system interior inside of it into LEO and then get it back? It's a way to do it. I mean, probably not the way I would want to do it, but hey, if that's what SpaceX thinks, I trust their judgment, you know. No, Eccles, no. Restart on the moon. SpaceX might strip SN20 and send it. We're going to the moon. Did you do any coverage on previous moon missions? Previous moon missions. Saltiva, like what? What previous moon missions? I covered the Capstone mission that Rocket Lab launched. Does that help? That was like very widely regarded as the first Artemis mission. Any of the landers. The landers. Oh, so you're talking about like, Beershit and Chang'e 3, 4, and 5, the Chinese landers, and then the Israel had a lander, right? And then Beershit had one as well. Yeah, I usually cover most of that. Most of the space program I do cover on here. We try to talk about everything. There is some exceptions to that rule, but yeah. All right, what else do we got here? At the Lunar, okay, what is that? What do you call that? The Lunar Exploration Demo. Logan Kennedy, surface lead at the HLS program office at Marshall, shows these slides of the Starship elevator. On the second slide, he says this is what the first steps back on the moon will look like. Yep. Yep, that's what I thought that was. Yeah, yeah, any mission that generally goes out to the moon or any other celestial body, I cover. Oh, absolutely. I'm more interested in the human spaceflight thing amongst anything else. But, yeah. Yep. So, fellas, I knew this already. I knew they were testing it. And I've been waiting for it to come up so I could show you. I've shown it a little bit. I've shown it in the past on stream. But I couldn't say anything about it. I knew that was there, though. It's right there. See that parking lot? There it is. See? There's a faux front of Starship right there. There's the elevator. They've been testing the elevator for the human landing system right in plain sight, right in Hawthorne. It goes down into the Boring Company tunnel. Interesting, right? Yep. See? 9-meter diameter. There it is. See? Yep. There's the entrance to the Boring Company test tunnel. See it right there? Yeah, it's been there for a good while, fellas. But yeah, pictures of the airlock and stuff. They have VR crew evaluation. There's the elevator. Pretty crazy, right? Starship's elevator. They've been testing it for a while. Love your space coverage. Hope they launch before I have to be in meetings on Monday morning. You know what? It's not... Saltiva, it has been 50 years. 51 years... 51 years, 8 months since any NASA mission that has a human-rated spacecraft has gone near the moon. Call in sick. Say something came up. Say it's raining too much. You're not going to want to miss this. Trust me on that one. This got posted all over recently, and all of us viewers are like, yes, we already know, old news. Yeah, if you really know where to look, you can find this. You can find this stuff. Guys, I don't show you anything that wouldn't be able to be found with some really diligent internet searching and stuff. I have teased stuff on stream before, though, but once again, I won't tease stuff that, like, say somebody at NASA says, hey, look at right here, look at this thing. I won't say anything about it, you know what I mean? But if it's information that's pretty much publicly available, I'll tell you. But I generally I try to stay out of the loop. I don't want people in the industry telling me what's going on. That screws with my analysis. I really try to make sure, like, most of the time, I'm not guessing about what a company is going to do. I come up with theories based off of information presented. You know? Last, Tori dropped something. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I got it. That's a pretty cool picture. We'll check it in a second. Regular related question. On top of redundant public-private access, we've seen numerous rockets do extended tank version for more payload, but with SLS, If they're just trying to punt an Orion or other smaller payload up to low Earth orbit, could they do a shortened SLS tank with a milk stool for lower cost? Or would the design change cost versus not that much savings make it not worth it? Not worth it, Aqualex. At that point, I would probably just look into putting like Orion on top of a Falcon Heavy if you wanted to get it into low Earth orbit. Yeah. It sucks that your grandfather passed away, but I'm taking Monday off for a day of remembrance. Upside Artemis 1. Okay. I've been doing some surfing on the NASA SAA platform, and there's something weird here. I'll check that out in a second. There's other stuff. Or build Ares 1. It's almost like SLS is built out of components that could be assembled together to make a low Earth orbit access vehicle for Orion. And I will say to this day, Aqualex, that NASA is missing a key component for going to Mars. They are missing a very key component. For launching to the moon, launching crew and lander at the same time makes sense. Doing it Apollo style if you're going to the moon. That makes perfect sense. Not necessarily for sustainability, but that makes perfect sense. But if you're going to Mars, you ain't doing it on one rocket. You're going to need a heavy-duty rocket to build a transfer vehicle on orbit and then have a crew access vehicle, basically Constellation. NASA is missing a vehicle like Ares 1 for their Orion capsule, unless they want to yeet an Orion capsule up there on an SLS with no people on board and just a gigantic transfer vehicle all built into one, and then use Starliner or Dragon or Dream Chaser to send somebody up there to said vehicle, then it makes more sense. But NASA is missing a crucial component. They need a way to get crew on their own, redundant, dissimilar to commercial crew, for Martian transfer vehicles. Or else what? What are we going to do? Build it out at the moon? That makes no sense. Yeah, Pigzig, something like that. We saw that tweet yesterday, Forge. Yeah. That was my thought about Lunar Gateway, considering the propulsion module they want for it in those space nuclear reactors. Yeah, you're going to need to build a Martian transfer vehicle in low Earth orbit. NASA themselves said they need to do that. So you're going to need something like Ares 1, or you're going to need a low Earth orbit access vehicle that you can put Orion on. I don't think they would ever milk stool anything again. Aqualex, no, I don't think they'd do that. So, anyway, you guys wanted me to see Tori Bruno's tweet here. Check this out. Flight Engine 2 on the test stand at Van Horn, Texas for Vulcan. Nice. Very nice. Building at the moon could prove interesting. Less fuel efficient overall, but uses less fuel in one single go, so it could be smaller. Yeah, but Yarg, unless you're mining fuel off of the surface of the moon, going to the moon to get to Mars is about as useful as going to Florida if you're trying to get to California from Massachusetts. Let's go to Florida first. Why? Oh, well, it's easier. No, it's not. It's not easier at all. Look at how many umbilicals are on the engine. Yeah, it's all developmental flight instrumentation. Those are, or test instrumentation. All these wires and stuff on the B4 are all for telemetry and sensing. You know, they'll eventually versions of the B4 down the road will not have all of that stuff. The moon is closer to Mars. Yeah. No, it's not. There are times when it's further away. Okay, speaking of ULA and Tori Bruno, it's LVOS day for the next Atlas, the 531 configuration with 3 side-mounted boosters for the commercial launch of SES-20 and SES-21 into near geosynchronous orbit. From there, the payloads will require minimal orbit raising to reach their operational stations. So ULA's cooking up another Atlas V. Your ejection burn from Earth SOI would be much smaller, though, is all I mean. Yeah, but the Delta V is the Delta V, Yarg. If you're using Earth as a grav assist, why not just launch from Earth? It's the same amount of Delta V. You had to pay to get all that stuff all the way out to the moon, and now you're just going to zip it off Earth to get it back. You could just get the same. You could get the same exit velocity with a high-powered upper stage like the EUS. That doesn't make any sense. LVOS stands for Launch Vehicle on Stand, by the way. Oh, hello. That's pretty cool. Sweet. Alright. What's this next one? So this is coming from Chris G. Alright, what's Chris saying? ESA officials at Kennedy Day confirmed 3 ESA Astro flights on Artemis. Confirmed 3 ESA Astro flights on Artemis based on service module and gateway element bartering. Artemis 4 and 5 to gateway. Third one will be the first European on the surface of the moon. Cool. So how long until the Department of Defense demolishes Slick 6 after the last Delta Heavy this year? Personally, Forge, I think that New Glenn is going to take it. But that's just me. So the next landing on the moon after Artemis 3 is going to be Artemis 6? That's what Justin Davenport's saying. Thomas replied to him. What's Thomas saying? Thomas Berghardt. Let's see. I think they mean that the ESA astronauts will stay on Gateway. Not that no one will land on those flights. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Cool. Alright. Is Slick 6 big enough for New Glenn? Big enough for a shuttle? Sure, why not? I mean, you have to... The mobile service tower would have to be a little bit higher, but sure. The problem is that the press misconstrue NASA when they say the moon is a stepping stone to a Mars mission. The stepping stone is to test and develop tech, not as a midway staging post to get there. Yeah, Jay, I agree with you on that. However, that implies that if the moon is a technological stepping stone to Mars and not an actual physical stepping stone to Mars, that my point still stands. You still need a low Earth orbit access vehicle to get our Orion up there, because we're not launching an SLS Block 1. We're not launching a Block 1 SLS to get people into low Earth orbit. That is ridiculous. If so, I hope it has some pretty heavy payload with it. Another thing that you could potentially do for proto-Mars missions is take an EUS and inside of the Universal Staging Adapter build a gigantic HAB module, and then have Orion launch with the EUS, put the EUS on a kind of like a cycler almost, and then have Orion just dock and then just do a crude flyby of Mars, which is a good idea. I think they should do that. Can Vulcan launch Orion into low Earth orbit? Let me check. I am not sure off the top of my head, Jorgen. Yes. Yes, it can. Yep. Vulcan could do 20. It can do 27,200. Yeah, it could put Orion into Leo. Sure. And Vulcan is, I'm not sure. Yeah, no, the BE4. Yeah, Vulcan is crew rated. Absolutely. It has to be. Seems like that's the way to go then. The total with a launch abort system is 33.446 kilograms, though. So? Okay, so you use the European service module to circularize. Vulcan is not yet crew rated. Yeah. It will be, Forge. It will be. I think that's a pretty safe bet. Someone suggested using Starliner and co-manifesting a payload for a Saturn 1B-like thing. Honestly, Zay, it makes sense putting Orion on Vulcan VC6. The only problem now is who will pay for the certification. Ford, that is so far off base from the right question to be asking. I'm actually kind of concerned. So you're telling me that if NASA wanted to launch Orion on Vulcan, they wouldn't pay for a human certification rating? You don't smell like burnt toast or anything, do you? Genuinely curious. That... I mean, Vulcan has BE-4s on it. BE-4s, Blue Origin wants those things to be human rated out of the box, and it's got Centaur engines in the second stage. Centaur engines have been crew rated since the Apollo program. So it wouldn't take much to get Vulcan that certification, and it would certainly be less cheaper than even developing an Ares 1, and you know how much I want that. I really do. I think Ares 1 is a fantastic launch vehicle. A lot of wasted potential there, but whatever. What do I know? So, I mean, you're like that, like, I don't understand. You're telling me that NASA wouldn't pay for a certification, for a human rating certification if they wanted to launch Orion on Vulcan? That doesn't make any sense. No, not that. My question stems from yesterday's Starliner conference. They said Vulcan will fly Starliner in future capsules, but the human certification is still in play. They said that Vulcan will fly Starliner in future capsules. Starliner in future capsules. So NASA or Boeing would pay for it. Boeing is anticipating a huge commercial market. It makes sense for them to human rate this out of the box. And even though there's no really official confirmation of Vulcan being crew rated, I guarantee you they're designing that with that in mind from the start. Why would you not? That makes no sense. Oh, you know, we're anticipating, our customer Boeing is anticipating a lot of launches of the Orion capsule, or not the Orion, of Starliner, right? They're anticipating a lot of launches of Starliner. So what we're going to do is we're going to not crew rate our new launch vehicle and only have enough Atlases to launch Starliner into space 6 times. Does that sound like Torre Bruno to you? That makes no sense. That doesn't make any sense. What do you mean? Boeing or NASA is going to foot that bill. Either one. Boeing because they're anticipating like orbital reef or something, right? Or NASA could use it as an Ares 1 style rocket to go along with SLS, which I would not have a problem with. That's a really good idea. In fact, you could, if they really wanted to get crazy with this, Vulcan's already designed to be moved on a mobile launcher. Milkstool ML1, the one that they built for SLS Block 1, milkstool that son of a gun and launch Vulcan on that from 39B. And then build 2 more bigger mobile launchers for SLS Block 1B. That makes, actually, that would be a pretty good little space program. Not as good as Apollo, but it would be pretty damn close. Yeah, and it would be more suited for, actually, that would be better. Yeah, no, that would be about on par. And it would be better suited for going to Mars. Just saying. Stupid question. What's harder, a nuclear payload or a certification of a human one? Human. Where do you think NASA would be at today if they had this kind of budget we had today in the 1960s? Rudu, NASA's budget has gone down over time. The reason why the Apollo program carried such a heavy price tag is because, well, you have to build everything. You had to build it. You started from scratch. Kennedy Space Center at the start of the Apollo program was an empty swamp. They had to build a 500-foot tall vehicle assembly building, multiple pads, multiple mobile launchers, not to mention all the design and development that went into building every one of those things. They had to build new factories. They had to build new headquarters for the Apollo program. New factories needed to be constructed. Michoud needed to be made. It needed to be made. It's much more expensive when you have to build the factory too. Right? That's why everybody says, like, oh, Apollo was so ridiculously expensive. Yeah, because the Apollo had to build the infrastructure. They built the crawlerway. They built the pads. They built the VAB. They built the operation support buildings. They built Kennedy Space Center. The Neil Armstrong operations in Checkout. They built ONC. Mission Control. That all needed to be built. That's why it carries such a heavy price tag. Not because the Saturn V was expensive. Now, don't get me wrong. For a heavy launch vehicle, for a super heavy launch vehicle, Saturn V is expensive, but it scales in capability just with SLS like everything else. Sure, absolutely. Turns out that if you want to go to the moon, you're going to have to spend a couple $2 billion. It doesn't matter when and where you do it. But nowadays, NASA actually operates with less money because the VAB is already made. We already have a facility that can construct a rocket that's the size of the Statue of Liberty. We just did, and one's on the pad right now ready to go, right? You want to develop an app? Another flyover coming up for Starbase. Cool. So, Rudu, I think the proper question to ask would be, where would NASA be? It's raining and I don't have my ceiling in yet in this room. Where would NASA be if if the Apollo program kept going. That's the right question to ask. We'd be, easily, we'd be to Mars, at least, at the very least. Yeah, we'd have people operating on Mars. We'd have Americans operating there right now. Yeah, we'd have sustainable Mars bases. We'd have space stations orbiting around Venus. And keep in mind, this is like bare minimum. Like if the Apollo program ran into like funding snags like SLS has. Yeah, bare minimum, we would have like a city on the moon. Or not even a city, at the very least like a base that could accommodate 10 to 20 people. Yeah, and I'm talking like flybys around Venus, stations around Venus maybe. Definitely Mars. Oh yeah, we would have gotten to Mars. Yeah, easily. That's my point. We spend more on Halloween than we do on our space program. Yeah, no, I get what you're trying to say. You know what the crazy thing is, Rue? I don't even think it's a question of funding. NASA's budget is already it's bigger than every other space program's budget combined. Easily. Even SLS's budget by itself is still way bigger. I think our problem is the cash flow is not the problem. I don't think the cash flow is the problem. I think the problem is the goal. You need to do something. That's always been my thing. You have to... Okay, so I look at the Apollo program with its huge price tag. The Apollo program succeeded. It succeeded in its goal. Why? It had a solid deadline and a solid goal. This feeds into something that something that I like to call... No, it's called systems engineering. Systems engineering, the first thing that you do if you want to start a space program, and this is true for Kerbal, this is true for NASA. Doesn't matter. You play KSP, this is a good way to go. This is a good thing to go by. Figure out what the hell you want to do first, and then don't change that. That's how you do this. Engineering, every facet of engineering, no matter if it's electrical, mechanical, software, aerospace, it does not matter. It all stems around what are you trying to do? What task are you trying to accomplish? If the answer to that question changes throughout your space program, you got a problem. You got a big problem. That's when budgets start to get inflated, like what's going on with SLS kind of right now. That's actually not the right way to say that, but SLS budget isn't that inflated. At the end of the day, it costs what it costs. It doesn't matter if you spend that money over 10 years or over 3. But the space program, they gotta want to do it. You gotta want to do it. You have to. We can't just say, we'll have our space shuttle and then build the space shuttle and then don't give it a mission, which is exactly what we did. They started to do that with SLS, and the previous NASA administrator said, no, this vehicle's gonna do something, and that set us on our current path. You have to have something for the damn thing to do. That's so ridiculously important. And it might seem like a stupid thing, right? But look at the space shuttle. The space shuttle's a great example. What happened with the space shuttle? The space shuttle's goal wasn't to actually do anything in space. Think about it. What was its goal? Its goal was to establish a reusable presence in space. Or make a reusable launch vehicle. And I will say that for a first attempt at a reusable launch vehicle is pretty good. But did it have something like, we need to get to the moon by 1970? No, absolutely not. See what I'm talking about? You don't change stakeholder expectations like that. That's a subset of systems engineering. The more the answer to that question changes, the more money gets spent and the less capability happens. Ask any systems engineer. Anybody that's into this stuff, you can't change what you're going to do. In fact, the further you get into your space program, the further you get into any construct, whatever engineering that you're doing, the further you get into that and then change what you're going to do, the less is going to get done and the more money is going to get spent. Does that make sense? It's very... I understand the dissatisfaction with the space program, but I'm telling you, it's not the money. The money's right. SLS has, it's got a lot of money being put at it. My thing always has been that we need SLS to do missions. We need to do something with it. We need to have a concrete goal. And the concrete goal was established, like I said, by the last executive branch and the last NASA administrator. Get back to the moon by 2024. Which is good. They gave it a goal. And look, all of a sudden, SLS is on the pad and launching in 48 hours. See what I'm saying? You have to have these goals. You have to have these stakeholder expectations. What's at stake? Right? What do you want to... Stake? Where? Right? That's so ridiculously important. And I understand that we spend money on other things. Like, I always see people... Rue, I always see people bring up, oh, well, we spent so much on the military. Why don't we spend that much on space? NASA doesn't need a $600 billion budget. The money is right now. If NASA's budget doubled, we could do all those things that I said the Apollo program would be doing right now easily, and probably that would probably be wasteful. Spaceflight is not that expensive. It's not as expensive as people think it is. You know, so like comparing it to like, oh, we spend more money on Halloween candy. That, you know, sure. Do you spend more money on a Ferrari than you would like a Ford? Yeah, absolutely, unless it's a Ford GT. Right? Why is that? They're both cars. See what I'm talking about? That's not necessarily comparable because the Ferrari is going to do things that the Ford Taurus is not, right? The further into a project you go, the harder some things are to change or more expensive. Yep. Hey, Ordon, 32-month resub. Taz, 48-month resub. Thank you. And Casper with a 19er in there, too. Cries in Mars Excursion module. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Now imagine where we'd be if the Dark Ages hadn't happened. That's about 800 years of science being treated like witchcraft. Yeah. Yeah, we'll catch fire a lot easier. I tell you, Italians make the best rockets because passionately blowing up and exploding and shooting flames out the side is exactly what a rocket's supposed to do. Italians should make more rockets. Am I right? It's very passionate. Yeah, Michael X, yeah, the power, the PPE. But even then, you screwed, like, what's the point, right? Because Falcon Heavy's going to put the PPE in the Halo module out there, so... You gotta... the PPE in the Halo should have launched on SLS, but I digress. It would have been cheaper in the long run, I guarantee it. Why? Because they retooled another payload to launch on Falcon Heavy, and Falcon Heavy is cheaper. But guys, once again, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's SLS, Saturn V, Starship, whatever. It's a zero-sum game. You want to get to the moon. You want to go further than low Earth orbit. That's going to carry a multi-billion-dollar price tag. I really don't care what anybody says. That's 100% true. And I know what people are going to say. Oh, well, EJ Isn't SpaceX going to be able to like launch? Didn't Elon say they're going to launch Starship for like $2 million a pop? Well, yeah. After they've spent $10 billion on development, sure, absolutely, yeah. But it's almost like physics doesn't change depending if it's SpaceX or NASA. You still need to exhume a certain amount of energy to get to the moon or get to Mars. You can't beat physics. That's always going to take a certain monetary amount. You also need a goal. Something like I need to lose weight won't work. I'm going to lose 10 pounds by October 1st works. Bingo, silly. Yeah, absolutely. You got it. That's a stakeholder expectation. I'm going to go back to the moon is the equivalent of saying, oh, I need to lose weight. I'm going to go back to the moon before this decade is out, right? We choose to go to the moon in this decade. That's a stakeholder expectation. That's a goal. It's very important for the rocket to have that. It's a subset of systems engineering, and if you want to read about this, like this works in KSP as well. You want to read about this, NASA's Systems Engineering Handbook is available for free online. You can get a PDF of it. The thing is that even if Falcon Heavy puts PPE and Halo to a good supersynchronous orbit, it will take almost a year for the payload to boost itself up to rectilinear Halo orbit, and then they will take a massive delta V hit on the power and propulsion element. Told you it's going to be more expensive. Why? Because the power and propulsion element and the Halo module were designed to launch in SLS's cargo bay on a Block 1B variant. Because somebody decided to put it on a Falcon Heavy to save some cash, you screwed up those missions. You changed what those modules are supposed to do. You changed the launch vehicle. Now, that's fine if you're sending something to low Earth orbit. Most satellites have a common... Most payload adapters are made for a common satellite bus. It's not that big of a deal. But when you're going out to the moon, changing the launch vehicle, when you're going beyond low Earth orbit, I should say, changing the launch vehicle can cost you millions of dollars because you change the stakeholder expectation. Can the PPE be refueled? Yes. The Europeans are working on a prototype refueling module for the PPE, yes. I haven't heard anything about it, but they are. You have an article about that kind of Rule 8, though. Can link the more sober report it is based on instead. All right, Floating. Just get link perms from the moderators. And then you have to pay the technicians and the engineers to monitor that payload while it coasts out for a year. Also per the Systems Engineering Handbook, guys, operations account usually for 50% of a project's 50% of the cost over a project's life cycle. And the more, because like, think about it, theoretically, right, you build everything, and that's the most expensive part. You build and develop it, and then you launch it. And then operations are way longer than development, right? Take the ISS, for instance, right? It's been up there a lot longer than it took to develop the damn thing, right? Generally, operations end up accounting for about 50% of a project's costs during its life cycle. And if you expand the operational window because you changed something, you changed the stakeholder expectation by selecting a different launch vehicle than what the payload was originally engineered for, you're now increasing that operational cost exponentially, right? Because it's going to take longer for the payload to get to a destination. So now you're ballooning your operations costs. Yeah, you may have saved money now, but you're going to end up paying for that later. Because once again, you could say like, oh, EJ, how can you be so sure about that? Physics doesn't change. Physics don't change. You need a certain amount of energy to get something to the moon. And in this particular case, to save money, we're using a less powerful vehicle to move gateway components out to the moon. A less powerful launch vehicle that has less characteristic energy. Does that make it a bad vehicle? No. Falcon Heavy is not a bad vehicle by any means. It's a great launch vehicle. Fantastic. One of the best ones flying today. But it's not SLS. The mission is gonna end up taking so much longer because you're gonna have to coast the PPE and the Halo module out there. It's gonna take a year to do it, instead of launching on an SLS and taking 3 days. And you have crew there in case something goes wrong. I mean, think about it, dudes. It's like I said, this is what I mean about a zero-sum game. You can't save money in spaceflight. The only time you can save money in spaceflight is by launching a launch vehicle a lot. Falcon 9, on the flip side of this, is the example of that. Falcon 9 cost a couple $1 billion to develop that type of reusability that SpaceX has. I don't have any way to quote that, but I guarantee you that's how much that cost. It's somewhere in the multi-billion dollars. Easily. Easily in that. But look at the launch vehicle that you had. It's always going to cost money to engineer the launch vehicle. It doesn't matter if you plan on launching it once or 100 times or 1,000 times. The way you recoup your cost is by launching it a lot. This is true for a commercial space program. It's true for a public space program, like a government space program like NASA. In order for us to recoup the insane cost that the SLS is, seemingly insane, I should say, the costs line up in my book. I mean, not in my book, I mean, pretty much everybody's book. Even though the thing is that it took a lot of time because, yeah, changed a lot of stakeholder expectations since 2012 with SLS. Just saying. It's always the only way we're going to recoup the cost on SLS is by launching it more. And I still will maintain that SLS is going to launch more than once a year. I guarantee it. Just the way they're setting everything up, the way NASA's talking about the Artemis missions. Looks like they're looking for help on ML2. Hope they finish by Artemis 4. Yep. Reusing systems in space. High launch cadence or simple concept. Economy of scale. Boom. You got it, Rocket Guy. Yeah, of course. Of course you know this. The funny thing is the modifications to the PPE to handle being stacked on the Halo and added structural rigidity make them heavier than Falcon Heavy capability. Forge, it feeds into something that I've been afraid of for the longest time. This incessant need to commercialize everything in the space program because we save money on it is not a ploy to save taxpayer dollars. It's a ploy to move taxpayer dollars laterally. It's a lateral shift because guess what? You can't make laws that regulate against the laws of physics. You cannot. No matter how many politicians or how many whomever administrators at NASA think that they can beat the laws of physics just because they feel that way. You can't beat it. You can't beat physics. Unless somebody can warp space and time, invent fusion, maybe we could do that. A good example is air travel. Very expensive to develop and use early on, but over time it becomes much cheaper. This is Darius, bingo. This is true of any type of engineering. Why do you think automakers want to make more cars? Because the cost comes down the more you produce. Sertoy has a point. I could see the choices that spread the money out and increase costs meant somebody got their money into their districts. Of course, Aqualex, but that, once again, guys, this... This is why I have such a problem with how certain people report space news out there. Everybody says that, Congress is the reason why SLS exists. Congress is the reason why SLS exists. That's true. That's 100% true. Yeah, of course. Congress mandated that SLS exists. They mandated propulsion requirements using shuttle components, and they mandated basically what all the architecture for the launch vehicle, the mobile launcher, it was designed by committee. But they cite that as the reason why SLS sucks. But what people won't tell you, that's very disingenuous. That is a disingenuous way of explaining this. People use that as bait not bait, they use that as a supporting reason for why everything should launch on SpaceX's rocket. What they won't tell you is that the same people that are so obsessed with commercialization of NASA tried to pull the plug on the entirety of NASA. They literally tried to shut it down completely in the name of commercialization. And Congress freaked the frick out and mandated NASA stay relevant by law. This incessant need for commercialization is literally the reason why SLS exists. Yeah, true story. You could say I'm wrong. Go and read a book. No, if you want specific examples, the 2010 Authorization Act. Guys, read it. Read NASA's Authorization Act of 2020. 2010. It'll say exactly the same thing that I'm telling you. Porter, 85 months. Thanks, man. It's not Congress's fault with NASA, guys. Congress is a huge advocate of NASA because nobody in their right mind in Congress would want less NASA funding. That makes no sense. See what I'm talking about? No, I fully agree with you. My state was in support of that. Okay, Aqualex. Yeah. I kind of use chat statements to kind of bridge off the point that we're kind of honing in on. I'm not saying you're wrong. Can we watch the NSF vid? We'll watch it when the time comes. Yep. You can actually watch a clip of Bill Nelson stating the severe dangers of moving to commercial. Yeah, Rocket Guy. Bill Nelson said that. Who else? Who else was with him on it? A bunch of people. I can think of two really particular names that you might recognize, not congressmen. Neil Armstrong and Gene Cernan also said the same thing. They said that there's nothing wrong with wanting to move eventually to commercialization, but pulling the plug on the Constellation program is a very stupid thing to do. That is literally one of the stupidest things that you could do. So, and then it's funny because everybody in the press used that as saying that Neil Armstrong and Gene Cernan, you just don't understand. You just don't understand commercialization. No, they understood commercialization just fine. I'm pretty sure that the first and last guy to walk on the moon understand how spaceflight works pretty damn well. It's pretty funny because there's a famous interview with Elon Musk that CNN did in 2012, and the CNN guy basically says, Neil Armstrong and Gene Cernan hate you. What do you think about that? That's not the case at all. They weren't against commercialization. They were against pulling the plug on our entire national space program. You can go look at the congressional testimony if you really want to, if you're really curious, or take my word on this. I only read about this every day. But we could save $30 billion. Yeah, Rocket. They had the balls to say that, to cite that as a reason. I still can't believe that. It's ridiculous, right? The requirement to use the amount of commercial off-the-shelf things didn't help. Well, that was their way of safeguarding the National Space Program, Joe. Think about it, dude. It makes perfect sense. Kind of strange how much Artemis is linked to SpaceX. Nearly every Artemis mission is being launched with their rockets except the first Eclipse lander and Orion missions. That's too much. Yeah, silly. It hurt seeing Elon like that, but the CNN anchor goaded him into that response because he's a piece of trash. Elon's passionate about the space program, man. And I'm not... See, the flip side of this, guys, I think a crucial thing to be able to prove your statements about things is being able to try and disprove your own statements. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the incessant need for commercialization in the space program hasn't gotten us places. That's wrong. That's false. No one can deny SpaceX's success. Absolutely. It was absolutely a genius move giving them commercial orbital transport services contracts. But here's the thing. Once again, it's very disingenuous. Here's the thing that I won't tell you. SpaceX getting commercial contracts to go to the space station and eventually to launching crew into space was a part of the Constellation program. That was part of the vision for space exploration, VSE. The VSE was a report from 2004 that was made in the wake of the Columbia disaster to try and shift NASA's focuses out of low Earth orbit and back to the moon. The vision for space exploration in 2004 was the founding charter for the Constellation program, and that was included, commercialization of low Earth orbit was included in that charter. You can, Demon, you can, yeah, he did. You can be in charge of SpaceX. That's, you could be not in charge. Elon is in charge of SpaceX. You could be pro SpaceX, but also not want everything to be commercialized. In fact, I will say this once, I'll say it again. The only way to really sustainably go forward is to have both of those things. And this is something that I always say. I always say it every freaking time. Ain't nobody here gonna convince me of two things. One, that more money is bad for NASA. Because there are people that publish articles out there that say that SLS getting more money is bad for NASA, which is hilarious. That's really funny to me. The second thing is that no one here is going to convince me that more rockets is bad for spaceflight, which is also what gets reported. What? You don't want NASA to have a bigger budget? Okay. Yeah. Are you really a spaceflight fan, or? See what I mean? You have to have a hybridized system, or else it's not going to work. Yeah, Pigzig, and it really, that's why I will always take the time to explain this stuff to you guys. I'll always take the time to do it, because I'm just, dude, I'm not trying to stir the pot. I'm not trying to piss in other spaceflight journalists' cornflakes, man. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm not here to get into stupid drama like that. But everybody thinks that, you know, SLS is there because Congress wanted it to be there. And they say that as a derogatory thing, as a knock towards national space programs. Last time I checked, the Apollo program, a government space program, got us further than any commercial space program right now. It's a loaded statement, which is bullcrap, which means that there's some degree of disingenuousness that's happening here. Which means someone has an ulterior motive, and their primary motive is not spaceflight. Think about it. If they're willing to, you know, tell it that way, right? If people are willing to report the news that way, you know, saying that SLS is bad, SLS is bad, SLS is bad, orange rocket bad, orange rocket bad. If people are willing to say that way, what else are they willing to bend the truth on? Because that is a self-evident truth. You could just go look at history. They tried to pull the plug on NASA completely, and Congress freaked out. Video of SLS from space. Utterly insane. What's that, Aiden? But that's an important thing to understand, dudes. It's very important. That's an awesome picture, Aiden. Very cool. At least they kept the budget above inflation rates. Yep. Still can't believe they got a budget cut based on that. Yeah. Hey, Niv, how's the office treating you? It's good, except when it rains. When it rains, it sounds like an ASMR stream in here, but it hasn't rained. It stopped raining, I should say. It was raining a lot during the beginning of Space News, dude. Must have taken forever to get the desktop and monitors set back up. I pretty much had it good by yesterday, dude. Did you read the Eric Berger article, Why SLS Was Necessary? I think that one was worth the read. Wisp, I don't really read anything that guy says. Kind of. I mean, I guess I'll go give it a shot, dude, if you're telling me to, but I'm not doing it on screen. Oh, Niff, you're being sarcastic. Sorry. I'm in serious mode right now. Yeah, this took forever, dude. Yeah, sorry. I had to shift out of serious mode there for a second. You think you may need more insulation on the roof? Dave, we have no drop ceiling right now. It's just the steel roof. It's a galvanized steel roof with just about 1.5 inches of poster board insulation over it. If anything, that poster board insulation is probably amplifying the sound. Yeah, come on down here. Come on back now. Last time I remember, SLS rocket is the worst thing to happen to NASA. Yeah, pulling the plug on Constellation is the worst thing to happen to NASA. And you know the funny thing is, the justification for pulling the plug on Constellation, fellas, was the same exact justification that they're using. Oh, it's too expensive. You can't, anybody that says that, oh, it's too expensive, oh, it can't be done, is full of, no, it's always going to, like I said, it's a zero-sum game. It's always going to cost the same amount of money to run a space program to go to the moon. The question is, do you want to spend it, do you want to get it done faster? Spend all the money now. Or do you want to get it done slower? Spend the money consistently over time. But at the end of the day, like I said, zero-sum game. Doesn't matter if it's SpaceX, doesn't matter if it's NASA, doesn't matter if it's the Soviet space program, Chinese space program. If China wants to send people to the moon, you're going to have to spend billions of dollars. There's no getting around it. Well, certainly, mainstream media should have a more subtle approach when they report on space programs because everything is more complex than it seems. And yes, spaceflight is good for the economy. Certainly, them failing miserably at their job is why I'm successful here. I'd like to think. I know you said you aren't streaming tomorrow, but will you be racing tomorrow night? It depends on when I get back, Panta. Yeah, maybe. Family events. What is this? China could overtake the U.S. in space without urgent action, warns new Pentagon report. They do this all the time. In the same breath floating that people will fight tooth and nail to keep NASA contracts, people will fight even more to maintain the strategic gap over adversaries of the United States. The second they get any wind of even the slightest whiff of aspirations of a foreign adversarial space program, they will use it to spend more money on the space program. The space race is a good example of that. They say this stuff all the time. When in reality, China's space program, while pretty damn freaking healthy, is nowhere near the capability of the US space program. I'm sorry, it's not. It's close. It's probably closer than any other space program. I think the Chinese have passed the Russians in terms of capability easily. Easily. Oh yeah, they have a very capable and healthy little space program going. I'm pretty impressed. Even though there's the whole stage thing, but how long until China tries to make an SLS? Well, they are working on super heavy launch capability, Electrolama. It's going to take a lot of money to make it, and it's going to take a lot of time. At least a decade. And I've heard whispers of Long March 9 being redesigned, which is their super heavy launch vehicle, their Saturn V class style launch vehicle, if you will. They've changed the design around a couple of times. So I would say we're about 10 years out. But if you take into account how hardcore China does, how hardcore China gets stuff done, like engineer stuff, it would probably be less than that. China's working to become the world's dominant space power economically, diplomatically, and militarily by 2045. Yeah, 2032 pretty much lines up with that floating, don't you think? One of the great tragedies was not having a crew launch capability with Ares 1 in 2015 and not having that smooth transition from Orion to Dragon for the ISS. Well, the constellation laid out a 30-year roadmap for the space program, Aiden, and the ability to basically rewrite the entire rules to how your space program works and go back to Apollo-esque style space program, that only comes once in a generation. Artemis is a good example of that in the Apollo program before it. It only comes once in a generation. And that's why it pissed me off so much that they pulled the plug on it. That's why I still will try to set the record straight even to this day. I think that NASA have no problem with the EU or RU, but China's more of a problem. I wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, we're still pretty damn well ahead of them floating. The United States space industrial base remains on an upward trajectory. Participants expressed concerns that the upward trajectory of China is even steeper, with a significant rate of overtake requiring urgent action, the report says. The U.S. lacks a clear and cohesive long-term vision. A grand strategy for space that sustains economic, technological, environmental, social, and military defense leadership for the next half-century and beyond. Yeah, floating. Gee, it's almost like we had that, and some bonehead decided to pull the plug on it because they thought, you know, oh, commercial's better. But once again, dude, reports like this come out all the time. They use it. They use these reports as a justification. And even if China's space program is growing, good. If we ain't gonna do it, I'm happy that someone is going to do it. I would prefer it to be us. Just saying. Nasa's update for McGregor that you've linked 4 times now. Creeper, yeah, I get it. I have it. I have it open somewhere over here. Maybe I X'd out of it. Hey, Creepy, you gotta, if you're gonna post the link, dude, you gotta be ready for me to say, yeah, I got the link. It's somewhere in these mountains of tabs that I have. Like, dude, posting it over and over again, like, that doesn't get me to cover it more, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't mean to be mean, I'm not trying to be a jerk, I appreciate the contribution, I really do. Yeah, okay, here, I got it. Alright, so, we'll switch it up a little bit. Alright, what do you want me to see here? Massey's update. Maybe some McGregor-like test fires to come. Okay. Back in the day, the Soviet space program was the best thing to happen to the U.S. space program. Same thing could happen with China. Admiral, everybody says that. Oh, we want China to, you know, you want them to do better because then they'll throw money at NASA like crazy. And yeah, that might be the case, but the circumstances are a little bit different. We're a little more economically intertwined with China than we were with the Soviet Union. So the circumstances are different. So it might not culminate in a space race. I would be really, really annoyed if it didn't, but history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. That's a very important thing to understand. Okay. Alright, what do we got here? Speaking of the Russian space program, let's see. This is coming from Katya. What's she saying? Yesterday, Roscosmos informed the public that they completed the fire test of the RD-171MV for the Soyuz 5 rocket. In the message, they called it the SAR engine, which is quite alarming, given that the SAR cannon never fired and the SAR bell never rang. That's pretty good, man. That's pretty funny. Savage. But the SAR Bomba went off. Just saying. Creeper, what's the second part here? It's official. Massey's gun range has acquired a new property and are relocating. SpaceX is expanding at their previous location. Yeah, SpaceX bought a gun range out in Texas. Dirt work at new location starts now. By later today, we should have Juan Wick range up with canopies. That's an awesome name. Yes. Thank you for your patience. I have all hands on deck updates to follow. That's a great name for a gun range. That's fantastic. So is Russia now post-Soviet? I thought the Soviets hated the Tsars. Russia is Russia, man. And it's important. It's very important to understand that Russia is not the Soviet Union. Two different things. Juan Wick. That's the best. If I'm ever down in the Rio Grande Valley, I'll go there. We'll go there, have some fun. All right, what's SpaceX up to at the old gun range? The rain's kind of relaxing now, yeah, when it's not absolutely pouring. We've seen them building up a horseshoe-shaped berm. We were thinking it was a tactical range, but now I'm wondering if it's a berm for firing rocket engines. You're talking about this thing right here? Okay. No, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, there's definitely something heavy going here. You know how I can tell? Concrete, boy. That's definitely not pre-existing. That's not pre-existing either. If we want to go and dissect this image, if you want to take a look, let's peep in here. That berm right there was made by SpaceX. You know why? Because it runs completely parallel to the concrete. I think that these berms over here were not. They definitely did bulldoze this, because the gun range went this way, fellas. Like, the shooting booths for the gun range, you can see the old ones. They're right there. So generally how a gun range works is that you have a horseshoe-shaped berm that goes all the way around, and you can see where it was. It goes all the way over here, and then it comes back this way. On the other side of the road, you can see where that berm was. They leveled it, and then you shoot down at the pile of dirt, so the bullets don't ricochet and they don't go anywhere. Yeah, shooting into dirt is like, yeah, you don't want an open range like that, because then you can get ricochets and they can fly off into populated places. That's probably not a good thing. So you can see the old range firing stands right there. So they were shooting this way, and then there was a big dirt berm over here. You could still see part of it, but that's gone. EJC last, visible here. Okay. Massey's gun range, aerial imagery. This is coming from RGV area. Whoa. Whoa. Okay. Man, I don't even imagine how much they probably got to do to build on a gun range land as for cleanup. There's probably so much spent brass everywhere, silly. There's probably a reason why they bulldozed and leveled everything. I'll bet you all that brass is probably in those trees, man. The horseshoe is on the left. Yeah, I see it. Okay, I see what you're talking about. Yeah. This, I don't think that's for the range, dude. Forget the brass, all the lead. Yeah, there's probably a good amount of lead in that hill right there. There's probably a good amount of lead. It's a gun range in Texas. What do you want? That was for the gun ranges. They were still operating when this was taken. Yeah, you can see there's the range firing area. Yeah. Yeah, see, they put up the dirt berms right there, there, and there. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is... Huh. Interesting. Huh. I mean, there's... Here, let's take a look. Yeah, that's definitely the gun range on the left. Oh yeah, those are shooting booths for sure. Now, let's take a look what we have here. See anything in particular? I see a lot of condensers right there. Climate control, so HVAC systems. Some shipping containers, a lot of steel, whatever the heck that thing is. This just looks like a staging area. Guys, I think this is just a staging area. It would be cool if they tested stuff there. Oh, the septic truck's in. There's... Oh, Satana. Oh, Satana. Yeah, this looks just like a staging area, dudes. Yeah. Cool, though. A green mini golf course. Yeah. Alright, what else do we got? SpaceX support ship Bob appears to be heading to a shipyard in New York City to undergo some work. That's coming from Gab. That's cool. And, oh yeah, we were talking about SLS. The temporary flight restriction, the TFR, and the hazard area were issued for Artemis. And here is your weather forecast 3 days out. Maybe Aqualex, yeah, I don't know. Borjo, Satana. Oh, helvete, Satana. Alright, so launch mission execution forecast from the 45th Delta 45th Space Wing. Yeah, Delta 45. 30% probability of violations. The primary concerns are the cumulus cloud rule, surface electric fields rule, and flight through precipitation. In plain English, you have a 30% chance it's going to rain. Yeah. Probability goes 70. That's pretty good. Pretty good. We have scattered clouds at 2,500, tops at 20,000. Yeah, you got to be careful. We got to hope that they get a clear window. Clear range and a clear sky is usually what you want to wait for. It's the first flight of this launch vehicle. You want to be able to see it pretty much all the way up into space, like visually with tracking cameras. You really want to see it all the way up into space. If you don't want it to launch into the clouds, because then you won't know what it can do. You won't know how the vehicle performed. Yeah, I think this is just Florida in late summer, Elios. I agree with you on that. Low upper level winds, low solar activity, but 2,500 to 20,000 clouds, that's those cumulus clouds. That's a lot of cloud cover. The backup window, tomorrow they'll have the next forecast with a backup window. Remember when SpaceX launched a rocket into the fog and pieces came back? That's a pretty good example, Bill, yeah. The other example that I thought of was the 1K1 mission. This one. First and only Buran launch. Got to see about 5 seconds of the launch vehicle taking off, and boop. Damn it. This is a better one. They were playing Portal, yeah. Just check out some of this footage if you haven't seen it. It's pretty gnarly. Oh, that's cool. And that's the last time we ever saw that. No, it doesn't explode, Elios. This mission that shuttle came back. Oh yeah, worked great. Worked perfect. The shuttle, in fact, the Buran had a pretty damn sophisticated autopilot. It launched into space, circularized up into space by itself, and then came back down and landed on a runway by itself. This thing landed in a crosswind on autopilot by itself. It's pretty damn impressive. There ain't nobody flying that thing. Nice UAS van over there. Yeah, Engine Uber, that's a pretty sophisticated piece of kit for the time. I will say, I like the American Space Shuttle better, but good engineering is good engineering. Look at that. That's automatic. That's pretty friggin' good for automatically doing that. Look at it sketch across the side of the runway because of the crosswind. That thing landed by itself in a crosswind. That's pretty damn sophisticated for the time, for 1988. Glorious tag of a long-gone civilization. It's a shame, Bossy. It's a shame. Not the Soviet Union. I'm happy. I'm happy that's gone. Yeah, I'm very happy that's gone. Frick those guys. But also, if we could have kept the tech, that would have been nice. It would have been very good. It would have been very good. But no, we chose to keep Soyuz instead. Hey, it is what it is. Like I said, I don't like not really well engineered tech rotting in a hangar somewhere. I don't care what country it came from. It really doesn't matter to me. I'm after the tech and that's it. You know? It is what it is, man. But yeah, don't launch into cloud cover because we could have gotten some excellent views of Buran flying up into space, but it is what it is. Okay. I was saving this for last. Watch this. You guys remember how I said it's probably better to just... Sometimes it's better to just shut up and not have dead air? Well, here. Watch this NSF video. Trust me on this one. You'll like it. I want Megazilla to hug me. Ah! Oh. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. What's this? What's that on? That's the light. I'm still getting the lighting figured out here, dudes. Covered it live, Elias. Oh, that's super low. Oh, oh. How old are F-22s? They still look futuristic. The F-22s Vassier stem from the YF-22, which first came around in 1991. Look, man. Something we're really good at doing. We're really good at building things that kill each other. Look. Oh my god, that's awesome! Oh, that is so freaking cool! Oh! 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 How did it do that? Man! That is... Oh! Oh! Yo! Nani? Kansai Drift? Yeah, they're doing flip maneuvers for Starship. That's what I thought, O4s. I thought they were doing these flip maneuvers because Starship. Oh, that is awesome. I know what he's doing. And now the F-22 is going to illustrate its higher than 1.0 thrust-to-weight ratio. Yeah, and it's just gonna hover. Yep, it's just hovering there. Yep, alright. Oh, he turned the burner on. You see it? Actually, I think he turned the burner off. Oh. Hands, sir. No, I'm good. Yeah, I know, you hear the car alarms, right? I could be a rocket too, watch me! Yeah. Okay. That's so cool. Yo! Oh, tracking camera, please come back! Oh, that's so freaking cool. Look at that plane. Look at that thing. I think I just filled, dude, I think I just filled the cup. Ah! No, we need, no. Just... Lockheed out here being like, can your Starship do this? The F-22 demo team is at South Padre Island for an air show. They were scouting for a place to train, and funny enough, there's a TFR around Starbase. Later, they were invited for a tour of the facility. That's cool. Oh, did you see that thing? Did you see what that plane can do? Don't get me wrong. There are other planes around that can do stuff like this, but man, that plane just looks real good when it's doing it. You turned on Danger Zone? Dude, you know what I was listening to with this? Here. It might be something that you might not expect, but it totally works. Here, hold on. Let me X out of that. I can't play for very long. Give me 1 second to sync up the audio. Alright. This could get VOD muted, but trust me. Ready? Let's go. Yeah, that's what I was jamming. I was jamming to that. I was jamming to that watching F-22s fly around. Burps. The F-22 is 20 tons, not including fuel. That's crazy. Oh! Hold on. that, man? Did you see what that thing can do? Can't afford an F-22, maybe one of those. Nice. And now I want to play Flight Sim. I was debating doing that, but I wanted to play F1. Oh, that's so cool. Fire in the sky. Won't you help me now? My castle is burning. I thought one of the problems of the F-22 was supposed to be the lack of maneuverability compared to other planes. Looks pretty dang nimble to me. No. The F-22 can, dude, it can go toe-to-toe with any air superiority fighter out there, man. You know, they're worried about those dang 5th-gen fighters in Top Gun. Yeah, one F-22 could kill an entire squadron of those. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Bill. Nice. That's amazing. Yeah, I saw Cam's footage too, Forge. It's pretty sweet. Somebody, who lied to you? That plane is nuts. Hey, Caden, what's going on? Hey, my brother flies for an airline in Japan, and a while back he had a NASA WB-57 overfly him at 1,000-foot separation. My brother was at his maximum altitude, and WB-57 was requesting clearance up to 60,000 feet. Yeah, WB-57s they can't fly as high as a U-2, but they can almost fly as high as a U-2. Look at the Russian version. Yeah, Aqualex, one of my favorite planes is one of my favorite planes that's not a U.S. plane is the Su-35. Yeah, Su-35s are beautiful. Beautiful. Look, yes, I might be a little bit drunk. Beautiful. This is my house. This is my house, and if you don't like it, you can get the frick out. Anyway, yeah, Su-35s are like one of my favorite planes, dude. Oh yeah. MiGs, no. Sukhoi. Yeah. The Su-35 is Su-27 derived. That's correct. You in the new office? Yeah, McNubby, I am. Yep. Yeah, Su-35s are bae. Yeah, Pants, I know what you mean. Do they even have a squadron of Su-57s? I mean, they've only made like 16 or something. Yeah, Mr. Ron, they're making them. That was the maneuverability concern, if I recall correctly, but I think where it matters, it doesn't matter. Yeah, the F-22 can do anything that an Su-35 can, and you're right, I think that was like, we were like, it can do that? Oh, alright, we gotta make our plane do that. But see, the F-22 is also stealth, and it also has very, 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 very long-range weapon systems that it employs. This is what I mean about an F-22 being able to wipe the floor with pretty much any other plane. One F-22 could do it. It has very, very... I don't know too much about it because there's not much information about it. Let me put it to you like that. I don't know too much about it because... But I know that the F-22 can pick up and engage in targets at extremely long range, and no one can see it coming because it's stealth. So it doesn't. I'm not saying like an F-22 could dogfight like 4 or 5 Su-35s. No, if they were experienced pilots, the F-22 is going down. But if the F-22 pilot was a good pilot, he wouldn't even get near the Su-35s. The entire squadron would just get taken out before they even get off the ground. That's the whole idea behind the F-22. If you do get into a dogfight, though, ain't nobody gonna outmaneuver you, though. It was made basically as the end-all, be-all, frick you of freaking fighter jets. Fighter jets. Excuse me. Big question is, how accurate is the long-range weaponry? Phoenix had no kills when fired in anger. I don't know. Untested, Tesla. And I'll be honest with you, I'd prefer to never test that theory. Because if we're using F-22s in anger, that means the poop has absolutely hit the fan. Yeah, I don't want that at all. Yeah, you guys want another thing? You guys want to get freaked out? Remember that whole F-35 thing and how everybody's like, oh, the F-35 is so expensive. You know why it's so expensive? That thing, you know why? Well, one, they sold one plane to 3 branches of the military. That's always going to get expensive because every top brass wants something completely different, but whatever. The F-35 has very advanced integration systems from what I understand. The reason why it has advanced integration systems is because it's designed to work with this. It's designed to work with the Valkyrie. Kratos Valkyrie, this thing. The F-35 is designed to fly with a squadron of these things, and it can direct the squadron of those things to do things. Okay? Think Protoss carrier. Any StarCraft players? Protoss carrier in real life. Scary. Yeah. You can literally play an RTS inside of your F-35 while it's flying around, and those drones just... Yeah, carrier has arrived. Literally that. Literally that. That's... I don't know. I don't know, Forge. Maybe it does. Why didn't the military learn from the F-4? There's a reason why the planes that have succeeded the F-4 were the Tomcat and the Eagle and not a horrible Swiss Army knife. I agree with you, Tesla. It's probably better for each facet of the military to have a purpose-built plane that's designed to do something. But also at the same time, I'll take an F-35. That's fine. So like the crappy movie Stealth. Yeah, kind of like that. Yeah, Protoss carrier with stealth. Yes, exactly. Poison, yeah. Drones don't have to worry about the squishy pilot passing out. Dude, it is scary stuff. Yeah, it can just basically control that thing and fly it around. You can fly one of those things around. And that thing is stealth as well, which is just... The F-35B can launch from light carriers, well, amphibious carriers, which enable several countries' navies. Yeah, the other thing why the reason, you're building it for 3 branches of the military, and it's also designed as an export fighter. It's literally like an F-15, an F-16, an F-18, and an F-14, and it like all rolled into one. Yeah, that's why the F-35 got so expensive. Now, we were talking about systems engineering before with SLS. Think about how complicated the systems engineering got with the F-35. There's a reason why that program was so damn expensive, or why it is so damn expensive. But now that they're flying, sweet. All right, as long as it does something, I guess. It's a pretty damn good weapon system, if I do say so myself. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not really too well versed in that stuff, but I understand enough to know that if you're gonna literally Protoss carrier something in real life, yeah, you gotta be careful. Yeah. How many cooks were in that kitchen? Well, it was a congress of cooks. New F-22 rolling out of Nellis. Wait, a new F-22? When was that picture taken? The Netherlands is still waiting on its first order of F-35. Redesigned outer shell and coating. This must be a low serial number. This guy's got to be a test mule. Yeah, Staples, I was going to say, they ain't no new F-22s. This thing was, yeah, see, look at the paint job. This is a test mule plane. They do that, guys. The low serial number planes, they take apart and they fix and they upgrade and they use them for tests. And then after a certain amount of time, they give them to NASA. No, NASA doesn't have F-22s, but NASA does have like serial number 3 F-15. I've sat in it. Oh yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, they're doing something there. Yeah, the Bradley. Bradley was... You think they're testing DEW survivability? The F-35 was also co-developed by the knowledge base of not just the U.S., but also most NATO forces. Yeah, it's... Demon, I like F-35s. I've always liked F-35s. But it's funny, like 5 or 6 years ago, there were so many people that just hated F-35s. It got to the point where I couldn't even talk about it on stream. It was so annoying. Now I don't care. It's a great weapon system, and that one's even better. Yeah, it's a sweet plane. Let's see if we can look into this a little bit. Where's the serial number on the plane? I love how the pilot's looking at this. 065. Nah, that means nothing. It's almost like it's got thermal tiles on it. I stand corrected. We have 26 delivered, 19 on order. Yeah, 065. I doubt that's the serial number, though, Demon. They would probably paint just another number on the thing, and that was definitely painted over the metal coating. They would probably paint another number on it so nobody knows where that F-22 came from, which is why it has no markings on it. It's just OPSEC in itself. If you don't know where this F-22 came from, you don't know what the hell that is. Except you painted it silver. Got a call sign? Nope. Check last. They're probably checking different panels. Form fit, bolt in versus having to do the LO layup after they open up the jet. Yep. Maybe they're working on Ram Mark II. Who knows? We will probably never know. It's out of our pay grade. You know what I'm saying? Can I watch that F-22 thing one more time? Can we just... Down, 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 down. Brown, 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 brown. That's so goddamn cool. Oh my gosh, how does that plane not obliterate itself when it tries to do that? I don't understand. How you know how strong that thing needs, how strong that plane needs to be to do that? Right on, Cyborg. Do you know how strong that plane needs to be to do something like that? That's unbelievable. Yeah, Rocket Guy, it's something really, really low. Imagine the maneuvers Maverick could pull off in a Raptor. Nice. They stopped production because it was expensive. You teased me by saying thermal tiles looking at a lift. Yeah, nice. Rocket Guy, the fact that it's that maneuverable at that low of an airspeed, I mean, look, okay, it kind of goes off camera for a second, but this guy goes into an Immelman at stall speed, and the plane just is like, yeah, all right, whatever. Like, look, what the frick, dude? That's thrust vectoring all day. Your control surfaces ain't doing anything. You're not going anywhere. Oh, my goodness. That is, oh, that's so impressive. What the frick? That's the dude. That's not how planes fly through the air, man. that is not how that works at all. Like, dude, even some of these turns that they do in the early footage here. Cool, Thomas. There you go. I got a video of it spinning around and hovering. It's impressive, Goalie. It's damn impressive. They don't have RCS. No, Spaceflight. That's straight thrust vectoring. Oh. That plane just looks... Dude, it just looks right. That plane looks right. Like, I don't know what it is, man. That plane just looks... It's so pretty. Like, I can't... Dude, it's like making me upset. Watch the stabs. Alright, I'll check that in a second. Actually, you know what? We'll look at that now. That just is... Oh! Yeah, look at the turbulent air going into the stabilizers. That's why they're doing this. You're getting dirty air. And you can see that it's dirty air because, so what's going on right here is that air is meeting, because the plane's kind of flying, the plane's pointed that way, but it's going this way. That air is hitting like the bottom of the plane, like re-entry vehicle style for a second here. And it's going up and it gets to the edge and it's at really high pressure here, and then it decompresses really, really quickly. And when the air decompresses really, really quickly, right, the pressure drops and you get condensation. It's literally vapor, well, not doing the opposite of vaporizing. It's sublimating air. That's gas. It's taking the gas and turning it to liquid. That's why you see these vapor clouds. Unbelievable, because you're going from really high pressure on one side of the wing to extremely low pressure on the other side. Condensing is the right way to say it, yeah. It's unbelievable. That is ridiculous. And then all that dirty air, right, all the disrupted air, that air is the air is at extremely low pressure, that the vertical stabilizers are not getting laminar flow, so they're just kind of waving in the wind. Gunny, boop! 21 months. Thanks, man. Oh. Why does that plane look so damn good? I don't know what it is. It just looks right. Like I said, fellas, and it's raining again. You guys can probably hear it if you're wondering what that background noise is. The fact that the plane can do stuff like this and not rip itself to pieces is pretty damn impressive. A testament to the engineering. So no racing tonight again? I don't have the wheel unpacked, Gunny. I ran out of time. You guys can still race tonight if you want, but yeah, next week is when we'll start, when I'll be there for racing. No worries, just use keyboard. Oh, and be even more of a liability on track than I already am? Yeah, no, hard pass. You in your new painted office? I am. I don't have the drop ceiling installed though, fellas. That's kind of why you're hearing all the rain. There's no ceiling. Is that pilot doing that, or is the plane doing most of it? Pilot. It's a fly-by-wire system, Wizard. So the pilot inputs a command to the flight computer, and the flight computer commands the control surfaces to do it. You should give the F-22 demo team a follow on Twitter. Oh my lord! Oh, that's so freaking badass. I'll take the timeout. I don't care. It's literally making rain clouds, weather guy. You see that? Oh, that's awesome. The hype meter just overloaded. The hype meter just overloaded. That's unbelievable. Do you see that thing, man? Oh, that's so cool. Oh my god. Oh, that dude, what a plane. What a machine. Alright, what are the gems we got in here?
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Winter sight, 31 months. Now we're talking. Now we're talking, man. Oh. Yeah, no, Jay. So what? We've done that in KSV, but no, seriously, that's insane. Journey, we'll work on it in good time. Give me some time to build up some cash. I'm having trouble dealing with how cool that freaking plane is. What is that? That's cool. There's one of NASA's F-18s. That plane is the, yeah, it has the D-Day stripes. Yep. Can I just... You know how much thrust those engines need to make to do something like this? Because, alright, think about it for a second, fellas. We want to get a little nerdy, and we're talking about the condensation. Alright, look at those engines. They're full reheat. The reason why is because in order to get the plane to kind of drift through space like that, the forces that the wings are making need to be outweighed by the engines by a pretty significant margin. Basically, the engines are what's pushing the plane up. Because think about it, you're not going very fast when you're doing this. Because pulling up like that, because if you tried to do this while going fast, the plane would probably just bye-bye. So he's going pretty slow, and then he tilt the plane up. Now what would a plane usually do? A plane would do this, and it would go down backwards. Those engines are on full blast reheat, and that just basically keeps the plane nice and level. Thing can literally drift through the air. It's unbelievable. Yeah, we just looked at it, man, a second ago. You ever see up the skirt? Let me see. Oh. We looked at that footage, the Tico footage, man, yeah. The force coming out of those engines must be rocket engine powerful to do something like this. And in fact, you know what? Let's go look. I'm just curious. What engines does this thing have in it? It's two Pratt & Whitney F-119 PW100 augmented turbofans producing 116 kilonewtons thrust each dry. It's 116 dry? Are you kidding me? That is insane. 156 kilonewton. Guys, that's not rocket engine powerful, but it's almost rocket engine powerful. That is almost rocket engine powerful. It's close. You know, the combined total thrust, you're looking at 312 kilonewtons. That is more powerful than some rocket engines. That's more powerful than an RL-10. That's way more powerful than an RL-10. That's 3 times the thrust of an RL-10. So the F-35 has a Pratt & Whitney F-135 PW100 afterburning turbofan making 125 kilonewtons of thrust dry. 191 with afterburner. That's not still 190 kilonewtons of thrust out of a jet engine is pretty frigging impressive, dude. When they were here at Tico, the pilot went vertical and just sat there for about 10 seconds. Yeah, the F-22 and the F-35, if they're carrying no payloads, yeah, they have a higher than 1.0 TWR. They could just sit there. They probably don't want to do it for very long because you're probably going to choke the engines. But, yeah, if I had to guess, I don't know. This is way out of my league, you know? Yeah, the F-22 can super cruise. It's unreal, dude. Yeah, I mean, you also got to remember the F-35B can do that. I'll tell you, man, I've seen one of those planes fly. I've seen it. I saw an F-35B at the Miramar Air Show in 2019. Holy crap. That thing can do this kind of flip maneuver stuff that we saw the F-22 doing. It can do that, and then it can, certain variants of it, the F-35B can come in and land like that. It is... I saw an F-35B in that Die Hard movie, too. Yes. Anyway. The Harrier can only invert for 15 seconds max. Maggie, the engine will lean out, correct? You can't, like... No, not lean out. It'll run fuel rich and you'll make no thrust, right? Because if you're just sitting there and hovering with an airplane, even if you have more than 1.0 TWR, you're not going to be able to pull in enough air. Also, oil? Okay, yeah, I believe that. Yeah, oil. Yeah, that's kind of a problem. Doesn't have a dry sump, huh? The answer is no, it actually does not have a dry sump. Have you seen the Ampere electric eel? No. The F-35s are a special kind of loud. I mean, that engine can belt out 120 kilonewtons of thrust. Dry. That is a monster. So who would win in a fight, F-22 versus F-35? It comes down to pilot skill, goalie. You can't pit plane technology against plane technology because, honestly, an F-22 is useless with an inexperienced pilot. It's literally useless. You have to know the equipment that you're trained on. You have to know the equipment that you're flying. You have to get good training on the equipment that you're using. It doesn't matter if it's a gun, a plane, whatever. If you have an inexperienced F-22 pilot, an experienced F-15 pilot will whoop his tail, or her. F-22 versus a PAC-FA. I think the F-22 is slightly better, Forge. Yeah. Even if the PAC-FA is theoretically capable to do everything and anything that an F-22 can do, the F-22 has been flying longer. There's a lot more experience. It's a lot more of a matured system at this point. So I think if two pilots had the same amount of hours on a PAC-50 and an F-22, I think the F-22 would win because it's been flying for longer. Maverick shot down an Su-57. Yeah, that's word, right? The F-22 will win. They can't find it. The F-22 is purpose-built air-to-air fighter. Yeah, it's Staples. I was telling people this before. The F-22 is not designed to... I mean, you can get into a dogfighting scenario with it if you really want to. It's part of the reason why they equipped it with a 20 millimeter cannon, because F4, I'm looking at you. It can dogfight, sure, why not? And look at those maneuvers that it just did. It can outmaneuver pretty much anything. But best defense is a good offense. With an experienced F-22 pilot, like let's take those guys that were flying in that demo squadron, Staples. If it came down to a dogfight, that means they failed. That means they're inexperienced because an F-22 could take them out from a long way away. This is why I say an F-22 in an experienced pilot hands could take out an entire squadron by yourself. Not because you could dogfight all of them at the same time, but because they would blow up those planes before they ever got near the F-22. That's the whole idea. But if it does devolve into a dogfight, the F-22 will whoop everybody's tail. But, guys, when you say, like, oh, what would win, a P-51 or a Spitfire? It comes down to pilot skill. Or a Focke-Wulf 190 or a P-51. Pilot skill. Whoever's more experienced. It really comes down to that. They run out of missiles and exercises and end up shooting people with guns. Now, Staples, this might be privy information, but they end up running out of missiles. So are they spraying and praying, or do those missiles do those XLAAs find their target? Or it's not an XLAA, it's just a long-range missile. Does it find its target? I'm guessing yes. Scary, dude. It's what an absolute beast mode of a plane. It's just. Anyway, time for more F1? I think so, Acton. Yeah, AIM 120s. Let me see that thing. What is that? Real quick, before we get back to F1 Manager, we got to get Haas onto the podium. We're gonna do it. F22 versus J20. Floating. I never could figure out what the hell the J20 is supposed to do. I'll be 100% honest with you. The advanced medium range air-to-air missile. No, there's a long-range version of this thing. At least I thought there was. Have you seen the photos of the F-35 fully loaded? Definitely not stealthy, but packs one hell of a punch. Yep. You like the rain hit? It's pretty much one of the only streams you're going to hear that, because I'll have the ceiling in by next week. Qs, Raytheon. Okay. This is a high explosive blast fragmentation. Radar detection system, solid rocket fuel motor. There's Minecraft happening tomorrow. I'm not streaming tomorrow, Blue, and I have a wedding shower to go to. Yeah, I'm basically on the south outer bands of that storm weather guy. Yeah, it's been raining all day. The NASA SAA document I wanted to share with you. Okay. This is the one, the Phoenix, that thing. This thing. But I think that's only yeah, that's right. That was only F-14s. I've seen it, Benno, yeah. It's beautiful. The one that was at Oshkosh, yeah. Jeez. Check last. Is it this? The Joint Advanced Tactical JTM is a Beyond Visual Range Air-to-Air Missile. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, exactly. Howdy, I'm sad now I can't eat sushi anymore. That's a shame. I remember the story of the German jets at the end of World War II. The pilots had the better planes, but they had no experience with the jets, so they didn't do much. P-51 shot down Messerschmitts all day. Yeah, absolutely. Pilots, dude, you gotta train. You gotta train. Not to parrot like other people that talk about defense stuff, but you gotta train on. Training is the most important part. And what's a Formula One car gonna do if I'm driving it? I'll end up in the wall. Or if Max Verstappen is driving it, it might still end up in the wall. No, he'll win a Formula One championship, you know what I'm saying? Before you get to F1, do you have any thoughts about Ship 24 being hooked to a crane right now with all the transports and counterweights at hand? I think they're going to stack it, Darius, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think they're going to stack it to static fire the boosters. Dude, let's think about this for a second. Why do I think that? Well, physics, pretty much. Physics. I would not try to static fire 33 Raptor engines on that first stage. I would not do that. I will tell you right now, that will end very poorly. Why? Okay, even if you fully fueled Super Heavy, I'm pretty dang confident that even if you fully fueled Super Heavy and then tried to static fire all 33 engines, it would still rip itself off of the orbital launch pad. How do I know that? Well, the space shuttle's hold down points didn't. Yeah, that's the end of that sentence. The SRB has explosive bolts, right? But if both SRBs fired and none of the bolts on the SRB, the hold down points on the shuttle detonated, the SRB would rip itself off the launch pad. And the space shuttle only makes like 33 meganewtons of thrust, at best. Super Heavy makes 72 meganewtons of thrust, double the Saturn V in the space shuttle. Double. And double SLS as well, while we're at it. I'm pretty dang sure, Darius, that firing all 33 of those rocket engines with nothing on top of Super Heavy will rip itself right off the pad easily. Oh yeah, that's enough thrust to push a fully fueled Starship up in the air at 1.2, 1.3 TWR. No, you have to put Starship on there if you want to do a full booster test. Yeah, that wouldn't work any other way. Oh, nice. What are those pictures of? Nice, goalie. That's cool. They want to static fire the entire 20 engine ring, and they're not sure if the clamps can hold it, so they need a weight on top of the stack. Bingo. Yep. Yeah, even 20 Raptors. 20 Raptors is more thrust than SLS. I'm pretty damn sure. That's 48. Yes, yeah. Firing the outer ring of engines on Super Heavy is more thrust than SLS. Super Heavy is insane. It is absolutely insane. Now, I know what people are going to say. Why does it have so much thrust? Well, it has so much thrust because reliability. Think about it. It can make up to 72 meganewtons of thrust, but are you going to launch with 72 meganewtons of thrust? No. You do not want this thing. You don't want Starship getting off the pad with like a 3.0 TWR. No. It has so many Raptor engines to make sure that the duty cycle per launch on a Raptor engine doesn't push it to its operational limit. Think about it for a second. Raptor engines can make 300 bar chamber pressure. Do they need to operate like that all the time? Nope. The idea is to over-engineer your engines and put enough engines on the bottom of that thing that you could literally lose half of them and it'll get into space. Ultimate engine out capability. That and smaller rocket engines. I say smaller because Raptor is not small. Smaller rocket engines are easier to manufacture than bigger ones. Big rocket engines are hard to make. That's why we don't see bigger rocket engines. It's like a car engine. You don't run it at redline nonstop. The duty cycle. Yep. Nice, Reagan. Reliability and redundancy. Risk mitigation is all that matters when we're talking about billions of dollars worth of materials. You got it, Weezy. Absolutely. He said duty. Yep. Yeah. The shuttle explosive nuts were wired in parallel with SRB igniters. Once the SRBs fired, there was no option to abort. It was going somewhere. It'll rip itself right off the pad. Yeah. Yeah, and Super Heavy will absolutely do the same thing. Yeah, floating 7,200 metric tons of thrust. Super Heavy is insane. It has double the thrust of a Saturn V. Double. They have to put Starship on there if they want to test. They want to test the booster. You have to. If the booster fired 33 Raptor engines, it would blow up the entire pad and probably the booster. Or take the pad with it. I highly doubt that the shuttle could take a 4 million pound mobile launcher platform with it, but I mean, maybe? It has a lot of thrust, 2020. I don't think it has that much thrust, but also, that's never been tried, so how do I know? Super Heavy, not shuttle. Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's going to take the pad with it because the hold down points are definitely the shearing point. I think it'll just rip itself off the pad. If those think about it, dude. If those hold down points are enough for if they lit Super Heavy with no stage on top of it to take the pad with it, then you could static fire test it with 33 engines. You wouldn't have to worry about it if it was strong enough to do that, right? I mean, I'm not gonna say that they shouldn't do that, but that would be pretty awesome to see. But, you know, like, maybe we shouldn't do that. Well, to be precise, it doesn't require the Starship on top. It requires the weight of a Starship. Yeah, indeed. Yep. It's pretty intense, man. Pretty intense. What's the weight of SLS in Starship Super Heavy? I don't know. I know SLS might weigh more because solids are more dense than liquids, O-Force, but I'm not 100% sure. Funny thing about yesterday's T-Mobile conference, when your launch provider destroys your entire business plan. Can't imagine AST Space Mobile, which is launching its early direct-to-handset satellites with SpaceX, is pleased to hear about this T-Mobile Starlink partnership. That's pretty funny. I know, Forge, I know people that work at AST. No joke. Yeah, they were not happy about this. You're right, they were in fact not pleased. Yep. Have you heard of Dear Moon? Yeah, of course, Wheezy. Wheezy, if it's anything that has gone on in the space program in the last 10 years, I probably know about it. Yeah, I've been doing this for a good while, man. Yeah, Dear Moon. If not, I'd love to hear your reaction to it. Dear Moon's gonna be sweet, man. It's very contingent on Starship flying, though. Yeah, right now SpaceX needs to get that thing doing more of that. Not hops. It needs to go orbital. What about Project Redacted? Oh, yeah, 2020. I know all about that project. What that project is supposed to do. Yeah, so, I mean, Yeah, yeah, I know all about that. Oh, the rain's drowning me out again. Huh. Wait, the mic was muted? The mic is muted if I... Test? That's weird. Yeah, Forge, I know, I've known about Blue Walker, actually. One of my buddies works for AST, I'm not even kidding. A good friend of mine. Yeah, Panda, yeah, Wheezy Panda, I think Deer Moon is cool. It's a little ambitious, but, you know, if it's one thing that I've learned about spaceflight all this time, you gotta be ambitious if you want to go further. You gotta be bold. Yeah, Zuna, it's very strange. No, you're thinking of Project Confidential. Project Redacted is the one that... Oh, that's the one where you lose the beeps, the sweeps, and the creeps? Shit.
Sir, I thought you heard any, please, sir. I tried the radar, sir. I tried the radar, sir.
I also gotta take a timeout, I swore. Okay, cool. Alright, let's play F1 now. Let's go back to F1 Manager. That was fun, man. I really enjoyed this game. We're playing as the Haas team. Yeah, we're playing as the Haas team, and we have to make sure that we don't look like a bunch of wankers, Gene.